Grand Rising, everybody. How you doing? Welcome to Wildlife Religion with Coach Renz. If you find me for the first time, we debunk religion most of the time. We also dive into archaeology, like we are going to do today, and other theories. Today, we're talking about the pyramids and why there's so many pyramids around the world. This will probably last about 45 minutes to an hour, and then the rest of the time, we will talk about almost damn near anything that the group brings up. Uh, Give them about 5 minutes for everybody to get on, and then we will get started. Grand Rising, Grand Rising. Hello, everybody. As I always say, we're going to give about 5 minutes to let people get on. I'm just pulling up a couple things I know I'm going to use today on the phone and some other stuff that I haven't found. Interesting. So, what I try not to do is get all caught up into conspiracy theories. I have a love for archaeology. Now, I do know that some archaeologists just follow the status quo, while there are others who will venture off and use critical thinking. Acton's razor is my favorite thing, which is usually the simplest answer is usually the right one. I try not to be all fantastical and stuff, but I do need proof. I need proof of things. Can't prove it. It's just a theory. Not that theories are wrong. Some theories end up being correct later on, but until we have such corrections, then it's just a theory. Just a theory. Starting a whole lot late today. I have to run an errand, but we're going to delve into this in about 2.5 minutes. Get my cigar ready. Please like and share if you enjoy the channel. Subscribe. Facebook, YouTube, Twitch. Facebook is my favorite. Just waiting for my people. Hello, Michelle. It's been a minute, young lady. Grand Rising. You left us, Michelle. You left us. We do lives every day for the most part. Monday through Friday. Sometimes life gets in the way, like it did today, but it's all right. We're gonna keep on keeping on. I own a cigar company, so of course I gotta light me a cigar today. This is a big one. This is the Pata 2 from GTO. So I don't know how yesterday we got all into talking about cigars towards the end of the podcast yesterday. But welcome, welcome, welcome. There is so much about pyramids that we don't know, but we're going to talk about what we do know for the most part, and then theorize about possibilities. Conversation that flows. Yes, it does. I just we was all over the place yesterday. Oh my gosh, we was all over the place after we did our. We had to do why I left. Um, what's wrong with the Bible yesterday instead of Tuesday. I had to take the mama lady to a medical appointment. So if you're looking for that on Tuesday, you got to look at Wednesday. But I do appreciate everybody. All the channels have been growing. They've been growing very, very well. For the month of October, Facebook increased by 10,000 new people. YouTube by like 1,000. So I am very thankful for everybody who has joined the channel. All the new people, it's great to have you. I look forward to us doing even more and more videos. We talked about also me and Angelina started a new channel on Facebook right now. We will add TikTok and YouTube, which is Eat Sip and Smoke Travels, where it's a whole nother side of me and her. Well, y'all don't really know her side, but a whole nother side where we review restaurants, drinks, cigars, and travel to go to different places and review those places as well. So please go and join that channel. We'll be adding more content. Angelina will be doing cooking demonstrations on there because the girl can cook like a champ. Oh my God, she deserves a cooking show. But Grand Rising Carolyn, Mike, how you doing? So let's get started. This cigar is 7¼ inches long, so should last the entire video for the most part. What? You're not following Michelle? Oh my gosh, I feel so violated. You've been here with us. You haven't been following? My bad. You're gonna follow the other channel. I just got understood that. All right. Pyramids. Oh my gosh. Is there so much controversy and so much information and so much misinformation concerning pyramids on the side of academia, on the side of pseudo academia, on the side of conspiracy theories? But we're going to try to maneuver our way through the bullshit based on what we know today. I definitely want to say that. So if you're watching this 10 years from now and you're like, oh, they were dead wrong. Okay, we're going on what information we have today. Who knows what we're going to find in 10 years? I'll be very excited. If you look at if you've been with me for long enough time, you know that if there's new information that goes against something that I said 10 years ago, I find it interesting. I'm ecstatic about it. I don't mind correcting it because it's what we know today. We are products of our current knowledge of all things. But what made me want to talk about this today is two things. I was reminded of Graham Hancock's Age of what's it called? Ancient Apocalypse series on Netflix, which is an interesting series. Grand Rising Renee. It's an interesting series. Very interesting series. But with all things, I go and seek out those who are against what he said so that I can hear both sides of it. I always encourage people, listen to both sides of the argument and then decipher and decide what's most likely the case. Because when I was watching Graham Hancock's series, there were things that I thought sounds pretty good. And there were things that he was saying that I was like, doesn't sound so good. He doesn't have any evidence on that part. He's just telling you what he thinks. And so, okay, I just take it as that's what he thinks. Like, for instance, the Finding Atlantis, I think that was a third or fourth show in the series where he talked about the Bimini Road, and I really want to go to the Bimini Road, even though it's actually called some in academia it's called the Bimini Wall. But I want to go. I want to go see it for myself. Is it what do you call it? Beach rock, or is it an actual road that was made by a previous civilization? Because I have two theories that I lean on for most things when it comes to ancient stuff. A previous civilization or world mind, a group shared thing around the world. And some things are just simple and not overly and not too difficult. The Bimini Road one he did not provide or have any archaeologists with him like he did in other ones. But I've went and I've read what some of those archaeologists that he interviewed said. A lot of the archaeologists were like, he took my words out of they edited and took my words out of context and gave the appearance of this, that, or a third. Wherein others, some were like, he was fairly accurate to what I said. I wish he would have did more or said more or put this part in or that part in to give more clarity. But it's a made for TV show. It's a made for TV show. Going to try to be here the whole time, even if it's 3 hours. Well, we normally roll for about 3 hours. We started late today, but we still should be able to roll for 3 hours because I have to make my other videos of the day to keep the channel rolling. But I love the interaction that we have on the lives. So I appreciate you, Renee. Now, but the Bentley Road one, he had no archaeology. It was purely what he thought. And a lot of information was based on Edgar Casey, who was a psychic. And, that one, even though I still want to go one because it's an island, it's a tropical island, hell, I'm going. But then the other part, Grand Rising Jeremy, is like he had no archaeology towards it. So I went and I researched beach rock. That episode 4, that was a reach. But one of the other episodes, when he talked about Chicxulub and some of the other pyramids, I found those more interesting, more compelling. And then because I've taken time to research why my brain just fell this man name just fell out my head. Is it John Allen West? Look at that name. Archaeologist John Allen West. John Anthony West. Sorry, got the name wrong. Really love John Anthony West's research on the pyramids and mainly the Sphinx. And then, of course, his water weathering theories of the Sphinx, which would place the Sphinx in around 15,000 to 10,000 BCE. And then we have Nikola Tesla, whose Niagara Tower resembles the inner workings of the Great Pyramid in Giza. And there are just so many other pieces of information from other people throughout history, throughout time, that has different thought processes on these things. I refuse to accept some things that academia says simply because of political reasons that they say it. And they're not so much academia, sometimes it's just government, especially when you're dealing with the Great Pyramids in Giza. Oftentimes, if a group or government wants to maintain the status quo, they will control the narrative, which is one of the things that happens in Egypt. The narrative is definitely being controlled in order to maintain the status quo. I don't think it'll be harmful for them to just state reality. As I say oftentimes, I think the individual person is smart enough to be able to handle information that has changed or that's different. Grand Rising Cammy, how you doing? Grand Rising Nick. People lived when the world was massive Pangea, meaning everyone got to move everywhere. There's actually no evidence that people were around during Pangea. There's no evidence of that. Actually, most of the evidence goes against that people existed during Pangea. What was the time frame of Pangea? Because I don't want to say it incorrectly, but you're talking 300 to 200 million years ago. We actually don't have evidence of that. And so Pangea broke up about 194 million years ago. mean, Pangea broke up 194 million years before the first ancestors of humans on Earth. So we need more information. We haven't found any societies or people groups or hunter gatherers, anything from that time frame of Pangea. Now, we've had multiple ice ages throughout that time, throughout the existence of humans, which would allow for humans to move. Humans became seafarers, and during every ice age, we definitely had civilizations that moved and or were destroyed. But as far as people, not now. Oh, thank you, Michelle. I try to be trustworthy, whether things fit my narrative or not. Grand Rising Debbie. Because all I care about is what it is. I don't really care about, oh, this is a theory that I pose and I got to keep this theory and I got to make it work and it has to be the right one and so on and so forth. But pyramids. So I want to ask you guys first, why do you think that there are pyramids all around the planet? What's your take on pyramids and aliens? Well, I don't now understand me clearly here. Do I think that there are other civilizations on other planets? I do. Math is the reason why I do. It doesn't have anything to do with sightings or anything of that nature. Math. When you look at, and I'm talking about life similar to our own, there could be life that's very dissimilar to our own, like nitrogen-based life or some other type of life that's not carbon-based. But when we just look at the number of habitable planets near stars, well, when we look at enough, the number of planets and the distance is a habitable distance from the size, based on the size of that star, and the number of galaxies that are out there and the number of stars that are in every galaxy, mathematically, there has to be more carbon-based life out there in the universe than just us. Right? So I do think that there are civilizations on other planets. What I don't think is that any of them have ever traveled to Earth. We are too damn far away from any other planet with habitable zones similar to our own. We are too far away for life from any planet that's not in our solar system. We're just too far. Now, is it possible that they could have figured out how to fold space and travel great distances in short periods of time, how to travel through, if wormholes exist and that sort of thing? That is always a possibility, but we just don't know. I think that what people are calling aliens, the simplest answer to that one are just pre-existing civilizations that were here on Earth that survived, the few that survived a Earth-ending cataclysmic event like a massive ice age or a massive meteorite strike and things of that nature. I don't care how advanced you are. If when the asteroid that supposedly struck and killed off the dinosaurs off the coast of Mexico, the Yucatan Peninsula, rather, I don't know. It doesn't matter how great your civilization was. When the sun is blotted out for thousands of years and ash clouds all over the place, most likely your civilization is going to die. And what survived is very difficult because when we do find layers that has fossils or tools or things like that, These things have to be perfectly preserved in order for us to find them. Otherwise, they just disappear from all existence. So, and I have a love for archaeology because originally in my life, that's what I wanted to do. I wanted to be an archaeologist. From the only other occupation that I ever desired more so or for a longer period of time was to fly, to be a pilot. So I wanted to be an archaeological pilot. But I wanted to fly and I wanted to be an archaeologist. But life didn't work that way for me. So I don't think aliens, in the sense of from another planet, constructed pyramids. The Sphinx might have been a pre-existing civilization. Some of the pyramids might have been a pre-existing civilization, but not all of them. And then there's a simple answer to pyramids as well. They understood they were antennas for energy. I think the Gaza pyramids, well, we're going to get into that. I think that, well, hell, we're already there. Well, you're saying they understood that the pyramids were antennas. Let me read everybody's stuff because I got so far behind in people's comments yesterday. More inhuman prison, more inhuman prison in the U.S. than other countries. To the world, the worst in the world. Many are innocent animal shelters and air conditioning, but humanity. Grand Rising Rose. I don't know what your point is, as in being related to the conversation. So if you can explain what point you're making, that'd be great. Very helpful. What it do? Grand Rising Brian W. Grand Rising Laterrence. I'm seeing some new names here, so thank you guys, you new names, you new people for being here. Make sure you follow the channels. I greatly appreciate that. Yeah, we are. That's the goal, to become the greatest version of ourselves. You also don't, Jeremy doesn't think they built them, but shared knowledge to build them. You would need a workforce, so I can see that. You know, there are many ancient stories, whether we're looking at the Nubio-Kemetic story, we're looking at the ancient Aztecs and Mayan stories, where they talked about, like, Quetzalcoatl supposedly came across on a raft and restarted civilization, started the Aztec civilizations. Sounds very similar to the Osirian story of him getting on a boat and leaving Isis for a minute to go and restart civilization after some cataclysmic event. The Thoth story, or Enki story, of after a massive flooding, which the Younger Dryas does provide evidence of a massive flooding of 400 feet rise in sea level, of people of Thoth going around and restarting civilization. That after the Sumerian story, that Anu instructed all the top level Anunnaki to go around and start these different civilizations again. So for their own gold production. So there's some ancient stories that all are very similar. So you have to give weight to it because these people had no other means of contact, for as we know. So there is some weight that you can give to some of these stories. And I don't think the Anunnaki came from another planet, if they exist. I think they were just already here, just a pre-existing civilization. You're actually not that late, Orion. I started real late because I had to run some errands that had to be done before this morning. So I'm with you on that one. I'm still waiting for information out of Göbekli Tepe, because Göbekli dates back, I think, somewhere between 9 and 12,000 years ago, and they just covered it. You can tell they've already established that they built it and then they buried it. You know, built it and buried it. It doesn't make any sense to build something only to bury it pretty much immediately. And I've seen information about the Eye of Africa over in Mali, which is one of the places that I have to go see. That it's a possibility. It's shaped similar to what was it, Plato? Plato's grandfather told him uh, what what Atlantis looked like, and the Eye of Africa is similar enough, and the water, the way it was destroyed and everything is similar enough. So there's weight that you can add to that. They might be so far advanced in us. Yes, I think they visited us and actually watched and studied us. I remember a couple explained where explained that they were abducted by aliens in the 60s. The reason why I believe them is because the woman said that those aliens told them where they were from almost a decade later, and astronomy scientists found that location from the new type of telescope. So how did the lady know about that? Interesting. Whose abduction is this that you're talking about, Ricky? Ricky Boatwright. Ricky Boatwright. Ricky Steamboat. Used to be an avid wrestling fan. But so why are there so many pyramids around the world? Let's first deal with the simplest answer. Very simple answer. And could be part of the whole answer. Could be more to it. But the simplest answer of why there are pyramid type structures all around the world is the fact that a triangle or a complex of different triangles, because the pyramids in Egypt aren't necessarily like one side, one side, one side. They have little, it's like 8 sides, I think. I think in total is 8 sides to the Great Pyramids in Gaza. But stacking stones in that way is the simplest way to build something. It is. It's the simplest and most structurally sound way to build, especially when you're using earthen material. But it is very simple. I know we're accustomed to these circular skyscrapers or square skyscrapers, and then they pyramid at the top most of the time. We're used to that. We see that all the time in construction. But if you're just using earthen material, you're not looking to build 50 stories up. Oh, Grand Rap, thank you, Orion. I appreciate that. I'm always grateful for any donation that anybody gives. I never ask for them, but I'm greatly appreciative for those who do. The biggest thing I ask for is to share the channels, share the videos, and subscribe. Subscribe. I know that creates a situation where sometimes we get ads that break into the lives and ads before and in videos, but that is how we keep this channel going. I don't have big ass sponsors. That'd be great too. But so I appreciate it. Right. And there are lots of ways to build them. It's just timelines is it's the hardest thing for us to figure out. Barney and Betty Hill. All right. So one of the things that I think we have to recognize is that pyramids don't all have the same usage. That's one of the things that I think academia messes up on, because we can see that the Central American pyramids, a lot of the American pyramids, some of the Chinese pyramids, the Asian pyramids, many of those had ceremonial or burial type of, is the reason why they were built. Most of them were ceremonial. Most of them were dealing with astrological events, whether it was winter solstice, summer solstice, things of that nature is why is what we can figure most of them. Some of them, a lot of the African ones are burials in Sudan, throughout Nubia, the entire landscape of Nubia, and even in Egypt, a lot of them were burial chambers. But because a lot were burial chambers, doesn't mean the Great Pyramids were burial chambers. Those were distinctively different and have some differences in them. One of the main differences is that There's no burial chamber, and there's no writings. There's no meta-netures on those. That no light you can't burn fires inside them. There's no ancient soot inside of them. The tunnels are too small. And when you look at the Great Chamber, what they call the King's Chamber, and you see how they are looking, they have two purposes. Well, I believe two purposes. One is an astrological purpose of dealing with when Asar's belt points to the womb of Isis, when the sun is going to rise, Horus, Heru, on the winter solstice. But also, because of the aqueducts up under it, because the Nile River used to be up against it, because of what the exterior of it was made out of, with the I think it was alabaster or something like that, and then with the gold tip. Tesla kind of demonstrated you do that same thing in the same type situation and you get free energy. I think they served as power plants for free energy. So Khufu, which would mean that Khufu did not build them. Right. And Tesla showed that, demonstrated that, right? What Terrence is saying. Tesla demonstrated. Trying to bring your mother over slowly. That's cool. Bring it slow. Right. So would have to have been 10 feet tall people to move some of them boulders, unless they had a way of moving them with water. Actually, I think there's a few meta-netures that makes me think they either move them with water or they move them with sound. Water or sound, which we have demonstrated that sound can lift objects. We haven't been able to produce sound to that degree or the right frequency to move that heavy of a boulder, but it's possible. It's possible. Yeah, I think and so we have to be able to separate it. Just because all the ones in Sudan and Egypt were built for tombs later doesn't mean that's what the Great Pyramids were built for. Debbie says giants. That's a whole nother conversation concerning giants. But I understand what you're saying. That giants that the people may have been, the pre-existing people may have been 20 feet tall, or higher. Because when you look at the Sumerian story, they're giants. They're huge. They're 20, 30 feet tall compared to how they drew a human. When you look at some of the Aztecs and Mayan stories, the Southwest Asia stories, they all talk about giants as well. It's a whole nother thing. Everybody talks about giants. Now, is that something that was just the best fiction? Or were they really dealing with giants? If they can move them telepathically, I need to know how they did it. I work on that every day. Have I watched The Armored Skeptic? No. So he gives a lot of great theories about Egypt. I haven't heard of him, but I'm guessing that's on YouTube. And I do think sound is very key to us understanding how these things work. Edward, and I'm not even going to try to say that last name, Lee Skalinin. Yeah, that dude. He used the same technology, sound technology. Okay. Grand Rising Brett. The pyramids were symbolic to mother, father, and child, among other things like Orion's belt, three stone fireplace, the ancient cook place, and even our day, many of us use the 3-stone fireplace. I definitely agree with the whole Orion belt part. I can understand that. Even looking at Orion's belt, it could have been symbolized as in civilization as mother, father, child. Um, so depending upon whose perspective, I can see that. Consider that we only have a few fragments of the Densolovian. Mm. They could very easily have been giant primates. I have to look up the Densolovians. When we can't figure out how something is done, we say the aliens did it. Because we don't know doesn't mean we know. Right, I get exactly, DBG. We can't fall into the same trap that religious people fall into with the God of the gaps and do aliens of the gaps. So in 1923, he built the Coral Castle in Florida, and he used sound. Grand Rising Illumi, the Densolovian, Densovian. That thing said the dental office. The Densovian. Okay, I can't hear right. So it's just on. I'm spelling that wrong. This on our extinct species described by the archaic human range across Asia during the lower and middle Paleolithic. I don't know about this group. Yeah, I have to read about them. Let's go to their anatomy. I would have to read up about these people. That's a different group. If you give a chimp or a 2-year-old building blocks Grand Rising Paul, eventually you'll see something triangular. Exactly. Part of that's one of the simplest answers, straightforward. Building in a triangle type structure is the easiest and strong and very strong structure that you would build from. So one of the easiest ways to understand why there are so many pyramids around the world is because it doesn't take you having connection with other people. It doesn't take you being taught that. It becomes like a natural thought process when you're in the thought process of building something. Right. So it becomes a normal, it becomes something that we just see as that's just what people do, or uh, any creature that's building something is just going to do it that way. So part of one of the first things that I would say and agree upon, and I think, is that no matter who built pyramids, they didn't have to be taught by somebody else to build in that framework. So that's the basic thing. Nobody had to teach you to do that. People just will naturally do it. And if you think about it, it's just you do a square and then you build up on that square, and in order to make the structure stronger, you build it in that pyramid type structure type framework. And you're going to get that all over the world because, again, that is easy, that's simple, that makes sense, it's logical, right? So the first thing about why there's so many pyramids around the world is simply because it's a basic structure that anybody and everybody around the world at any given time, if for the majority of us were destroyed today and we went back to some, you know, uh, went through a period where all technology that we have now is lost, and we revert back to hunter gatherers, and then we go into a construction phase again, pyramids will be built again without anybody having to come and teach them, whoever survived, those surviving generations, about building in that way. So that's part of the answer. That's definitely part of the answer as to why there are pyramids around the world. Universal reason of balance on the planet. Yeah. And Tony, that I think we are in agreement as far as this just a natural thing, a natural understanding of building. Now, there are two things that then come about that we have to think about is when they were built. That's the hardest part. When were they built? No, you spelled it right. And yes, they were around during the Neanderthal time frame. From the glance that I looked, there is unsure whether or not they had any contact with Neanderthals. But they do seem, in the glance at their anatomy, seem like they were bigger. And then there are other construction methods that civilization would not have had to been taught. Ropes, pulleys, as Brian W. is saying, ropes, pulleys, wheels. Somebody is going to see around the world, see a rock rolling down a hill, and then fashion and come up like, if I smooth that out, it'll roll a lot better. Let me put two sticks in between two of them with a hole, and now I can put something on top of it. So we're going to just basic human, because we can think through things. We're going to come up by watching nature and see how to do certain things. So we're going to make tools at some point. But some of these structures, when we look at the difference between, one of the differences that I noticed between the pyramids in Sudan and the pyramids in Egypt and the Great Pyramid, is that it's not the same people. It's almost like the people in Sudan, the Nubians and the ancient Kemetic people, were trying to replicate something that was already there, but didn't have all the technologies to do it the same way, which is why they are in comparison inferior. So, like how the Great Pyramids are so precisely built where you can't even get a hair in between those thumbs. But in other pyramids, they're not built as precise. They're not cut the stones aren't cut as precise. So it allows for gaps and cracks and things of that nature, which is why some of them they're not going to last as long. Like some of the pyramids in Sudan will be long gone before the pyramids in Egypt and the Gaza pyramids, because they're just not built as well. So, and the Sudanese pyramids are younger. So you would think the younger, how we live in our world today, we have more advanced building techniques. Like we use concrete that is far better than the concrete that the Romans first came up with. So our concrete structures should be able to last longer than some of the Roman concrete structures. I was watching a video last night night before. It was on Czechoslovakia. And one of the reasons why one of their pyramids survived, not pyramids, their Colosseum survived longer than the Colosseums like in Rome, it's doing better than the Colosseum in Rome, because they theorized, they won't know, they have to tear it apart in order to figure it out. And of course, they're not going to tear this thing apart. But they think that there might be iron little poles in between each stone to lock them together more, which would demonstrate that they got better at building it. So we always seem to get better at building something, but that didn't happen compared to the Gaza pyramids. They didn't build it better. Even with some of the pyramids in Peru and the Aztec pyramids, they built those better than some of the later pyramids that were built. So some technology, some knowledge of technology was lost somewhere and somehow. But the fact remains that they're there. They're there. So we can't disregard them. And that's something that we can't disregard either. So the Great Pyramids definitely are not Khufu's burial chamber. There was no coffin find, sarcophagus find. There's no mummy. There is an impossibility to. There's no writings. There's nothing. The Great Pyramids definitely wasn't built over 30. I got way behind y'all again already. So I know I'm gonna miss a lot of y'all conversation. I like to be down where you guys are because I know there's a delay. So I agree, but the ancient Kemet, was actually created by the Sudanese. Please watch Ancient Kemet, the golden years of the YouTube. African archaeologists explain the creation of how. Well, now there was already a Kemetic society. Then they were conquered by Sudan for about a century, and then the ancient Kemets took back over. So they already was building some stuff. Already had societies before the Sudanese came and conquered them. The Nubians, the Kushites, came and conquered them, and then after about 137, 147 years, something like that, they reconquered their lands. So they didn't necessarily start them out. That's a fallacy that they started them out because they was around before then. They had it's called like a period of the what do they call it? The period of the Black Kings. When the Sudanese conquered them. Have you heard of the Olmecs? They were around before the Incas, and they're not much known about them, but they were making megalithic structures. Yeah, and we do have the Olmecs, and I have my own theory about the Olmecs as to who they were. I think that the Olmecs were a group of people who migrated from China during about 125,000 years ago. All right. Well, is it 125,000? No, about 65,000 years ago, I think. Migrated into the Americas, met up with the people. I mean, migrated to America, met up with. Not sure if they met up with anybody, but they were there. And then there was another migration 25,000 years ago coming across. And then you got the Younger Dryas period, that was 15,000 years ago. And you had another migration. So they could have been a group that migrated over and established a society and then were wiped out for one reason or another or just left. The Easter Island monolith looks more Polynesian to me than the Olmecs. The Olmecs look either Aboriginals or the East Africans that migrated into Asia that then migrated over into the Americas. Now, we biologically have demonstrated that the Asiatic people came from, the Chinese people at least, came from East Africa. And those are the same ones that have claims to have come to the Americas about 25,000 years ago. What year did the Sudanese come and conquer that? See, when did Sudan conquer Egypt? Nope, that's too early. When did the Black Kings rule Egypt? See, that was around 730 BC. From just me quickly looking at it. Yeah, that was in the 8th and 7th century BC. But we know that the it couldn't have been barren because in 1200 BC they already had pharaonic dynasties in Kemet that were ruling the Levant. We know their records in Kemet goes all the way back to around 6-7,000 BC, well BCE. Uh, so it wasn't empty. It wasn't an empty landscape. See, that's one of the things that we have to look at the time frames of these things. Yeah, I would love. That's where John Anthony West comes in. Brian W. For me, with his focus was on the Sphinx, and based on his research and geological research, the Sphinx had to have been built either 15,000 years ago or 26,000 years ago, when the Sahara Desert was green. And we know every the Sahara Desert goes through these changes every 13,000 years. Um, King Ramsey sailed the Mississippi River. I've never heard of. Now I've heard people try to say that the Kemetic people came to the Americas, but see the I don't see the archaeological evidence of any Kemetic people coming to the Americas. Is it possible for their boats to make it across? It's possible. That's been demonstrated that it is possible. Did they? There's no evidence of it. People will say because there are pyramid mounds along the Mississippi that's evidence that the Kemetic people came over to the Americas. But building pyramid mounds, that's what everybody in the world would have done without anybody demonstrating it. That's if we attributed water erosion to the rain. Couldn't it be it had the what happening in a shorter time frame died to using talking text? Because I'm not exactly sure what you mean by that one, Orion. That talking text will mess you up, man. The Grand Canyon been found to be a hoax, Larry. Grand Rising, though. I don't know if you've ever spoken on here before. But the pyramids I'll have to check that video later, Ricky. Could it have happened due to flooding? Yeah, but that was still the last time. But that area, the only possible time frame that area could have flooded, and it wouldn't have been a Nile flooding because it would have covered the entire thing. So it would have to go back again to the Younger Dryas period, which would have been around 9,000 years ago. but it will have to have already been constructed long prior to that. Yeah, instead of Sahara means desert in Arab, so like saying desert, desert. And believe it, the names of places have changed. What we call it something today is not the same thing that they may have called it 20,000 years ago. Well, Brian W. saying black folks need to realize there were other folks on the planet and they weren't everywhere first. I think the reason why black people say that is Grand Rise Ramses is that because of the out of Africa theory is the most likely theory of world population. So those migrations, those people would have come out of Africa. They would have been dark skinned, and then adaptations would have changed the look of the people over time. And then as people did uh, come and integrate more, it changes the people once again. So you're going to have different looking people. Our world today is so connected that we're not going to have changes based on isolation. So just like the Chinese geneticists tried to show that Chinese people were always Chinese, what he proved is that they came out of East Africa, which validated the migrations. We can't go into the Grand Canyon. That's how I know is something they're hiding. One of the reasons why the Grand Canyon was made into a a park and has restrictions is because prior to that, you had gold excavators who were, I don't want to say destroying, but of course they're digging and they're digging for gold. They're looking for gold. Uh, so who was it? Was it Theodore Roosevelt? Just wanted to preserve it. Some areas are too dangerous for people to just go running all up in there, you know, killing themselves. But as far as the guy, I forgot his name, who said that he solved all these, he found the tunnels with the ancient Egyptians and all that stuff. None of that information was ever validated. The person was never found. There's no records of that person existing. The person he said that came from the Smithsonian to look at his find, that person never existed. There's no proof of that person ever existing. Um, it was written by one newspaper. I think it was the Arizona Gazette or something like that. And I think it was a tabloid type story just to sell papers. But just because the government won't let you go there doesn't mean that the comedic story is right. It could be it. Look, I work for this government. There are places that they won't let you go simply for research reasons or weaponry or national security. This cigar is smoking a hell of a lot faster than I thought it would. It was just this usually takes 2 hours to smoke, but not today. I'll be gone in an hour. Abakare to put it is to put actual timelines in place, right? But Abakare, he comes much later in history after the pyramids are being built and have been built. So I don't see the connection with him and when these pyramids are built. And that's the most important thing is figuring out when they were built. They just slapped the date of Khufu on the Great Pyramids. And but we know it's not a tomb. Now the Mayan tombs, the Mayans, the Aztecs, a lot of these other people, they built them as tombs for their people, or they built them as ceremonies, where the Sudanese built them as tombs. But most of the, so I said that incorrectly, most of the Mayans and the Aztecs, most of the other pyramids around the world were built for ceremonies, whether they were sacrificing people to the gods, whether it had something to do with the sun or other astrological events. It was built for those purposes. So all of them wasn't built for a power plant and tombs and ceremonies, which breaks it down to the culture of the people of when they built them. Not black folks settled on every land somehow became whatever ethnicity they will become. That is very plausible and easily identifiable by biology. Once you settle in an area and you're isolated from mixing with other people, your genome starts to adapt to that environment. I did a video about how if you take up people who were not living coastal anymore and started moving inland and started becoming more agricultural, and you're isolated and you're north, i.e. Europe, Northern America, China, the body start adapting, the recessive genes starts taking over and you'll become lighter, so that you can absorb vitamin D from the sun, because you're no longer getting it from the ocean. Whereas if you're even if you go inland but you're in a tropical area, the skin is still going to stay darker because to protect you from too much sun radiation. So as long as people are isolated and be isolated for 20, 30, 40 generations, you can see adaptive changes based on the environment that they're in. And just because we create these classifications doesn't validate them, that they were always were. Yeah, Khufu just made claims, and you gotta think back in the day, if a king made a claim, who's going to challenge it? Oh shit! I did something. Hold on. Okay. Cool food would be in alignment with the timeline of Noah and Noah's Ark story. Actually, none of the ancient flood stories are in alignment with Noah's flood story. Noah's flood story is at least about 4,600 years too late. Now, the pyramids found on Mars, I do not think that the pyramids on Mars are just mountains and the face on Mars is just a mountain. There is a possibility that Mars used to be in a habitable zone with our sun, and that there could have been civilization there. Now, whether the Anunnaki flying from Earth to Mars and that sort of thing, slim possibility. But did some type of life once live on Mars? Because we see that there used to be water on Mars, there was oceans on Mars and rivers on Mars, and they had polar caps and they had a thicker atmosphere. Possible other civilizations existed on Mars, but Mars habitable zone, it lost its habitable zone and those civilizations died out. I think that that's more plausible than traveling between the two, or the Anunnaki setting up a depot on Mars and all of that. Just like I think if we were able to really see Venus, at some point Venus was in the habitable zone and could have developed life and had life. And then once it moved out of the habitable zone, when the sun got bigger and it was not in the habitable zone anymore, no, they didn't live there. Or it is possible, because these habitable zones take billions of years to change. Is it possible that Venus had a civilization that became spacefaring and then came to Earth when it became habitable, then and also Mars, tried to do some things on Mars, and then Mars got out of it, and then Venus got out of it, and then they just stayed here on Earth. That's a very thin possibility, but logically, based on how we know the sun is growing and habitable zone shift, is it a possibility? Because if you think about us here on Earth, in a few billion years, Earth will start to not be in the habitable zone for our sun. Mars will be back into a habitable zone. So in a few billion years, with the speed of technology, if we don't have any massive extinction event, it's possible that our those who inherit our lineage in 3 billion years, and we will probably look very different at that time frame, could move to Mars. It's a thought process. Yeah, I think that the Olmecs were Eastern civilization that came west. Yeah, and the Noah's Ark story comes. It's really a copy of the Gilgamesh story. And a lot of our history books are filled with propaganda that's based on who's in control of government at the time. Yeah, and what my man said, Ricky Steamboat said that it would take about 60,000 years for that to happen, for massive adaptation like that. I don't. I think it could happen in shorter than 60,000 years. Uh, if you think about how many generations of people are born, say in 8,000 years, and if you're isolated, I think it can happen a lot faster. So using talk. Yeah, I figure when people have the misspellings come through, is that damn talk text. But no, it's cool. I just try to figure it out. Mission to Mars movie showed an interesting perspective. Was that the one where that old boy got left on Mars? Right. Mars, I think that honestly, I think something happened in Mars history that rapidly got rid of their atmosphere. And once that happened, the planet went barren. You know, if you strip away our atmosphere, the sun rays would dry every damn thing up, burn up everything. We wouldn't be able to live here. Whether it was a comet going by too close and disrupted everything, or another planet, Earth and Mars got too close at one point, or something. Could have been so many different. It could have been a few different things that could have created a negative situation on Mars. But I think Mars will regain that atmosphere over time. But that's going to be billions of years of time. We won't be here to know. We will be ancient history by that time frame. Like this house will have disintegrated into nothingness and probably not even be able to realize that it was here by that time frame. Which is one of the things that makes so these pyramids on Mars. We need a lot more information on that one. Of course, the Sumerians talk about the fact that the pyramid on Mars was built by the Anunnaki, and that was a depot, which to a certain degree don't make sense to me. You're trying to get this gold to um, Nibiru. So from Earth, you get the gold on Earth, you refine it, you take it to Mars, and then from Mars they send it to Nibiru. When you look at it on a real big scale of difference, it doesn't make any sense to have it on Nibiru. I mean, to have it on Mars. It's kind of like gas stations, right? You don't get in your car and then you stop 100. You got a 800 600-mile journey. You're not going to drive 100 miles and then get gas to then drive the rest of the way. You're going to have like a halfway point when you're just about out of gas, got a quarter tank left, and then you're going to stop, get some gas, and that'll take you the rest of the way. Mars would not have been far enough away from Earth for it to make sense for that to be a depot. It would have made more sense with the whole Nibiru story or Planet X for that way station to be like on one of the moons of Saturn or one of the moons of Neptune or Uranus, like halfway to Nibiru. Right next door doesn't make sense at all. At all. Doesn't make any sense whatsoever. That would not be efficient. Oh shit. Hey, I go writing faster than I'm talking. Could we have just been left behind? They took off and said, let them fend for themselves, and we're just a stubborn carbon copy of whatever civilization that was previously inhabiting the planet, and like who built the pyramids or the Sphinx. Not so much left behind. Well, in a sense, left behind. Okay. Social structures. Let's just say that there was an advanced civilization prior to the Younger Dryas, and then this ice age hits. The way societies normally work and how our society work and how most societies ever work, those who can escape are usually the more elites of whatever the civilization is. They leave. They went to Antarctica or they went somewhere else and had a safe haven to live. And they left the rest of the people who were the lower caste. But of course, some of that lower caste is still going to survive. And so when it's all said and done, 3,000 years, 4,000 years later, 5,000 years later, they come back and like, okay, everything's cleared up. There's a big ass flood, but now everything's cleared up. Let's go back and see what's left. And then when they go back and see what's left, they're like, oh shit, look, some of them are still here. Some of those that we left from the lower caste, and they've been able to survive, and they've created these hunter-gatherer civilizations. Well, we need servants. Let's kick them into gear, right? Which is pretty much an Anunnaki story that after this flood, for the whole flood story for the Anunnaki, the Epic of Gilgamesh, the higher caste left, went to safety. The lower people stayed. And then when they returned, they was like, oh, we got to restart these civilizations, got to get them to work. And so they got them to work, which is why the Kemetic people and the Sumerian people have this, what's called stair-step evolution. Like they just burst on the scene and they already knew, and they showed demonstrations of knowing all this agricultural stuff. And then a few centuries later, it's like, bam, they make these other great, huge advancements. And they're now doing even more things, as if somebody came and said, hey, this is how you farm. And all of a sudden, bam, they're farming. And then they come back a few hundred years. This is how you irrigate. And bam, they're irrigating like a champ. There wasn't a gradual, it doesn't demonstrate a gradual progression in technology, kind of like how we have a gradual progression in technology, even though things are moving faster now because of the internet. But when you look prior to the internet, the world's technology had a gradual increase, right, over time, not all of a sudden an explosion. We're seeing an explosion in technology now because of the internet and the speed of computers and the ability to communicate with people around the world. So we are exploding in our technology. We ain't seen no internet back then. So according to the Sumerians, the gods, the Anunnaki, just showed up and say, this is how you do this, and then left. And then a few centuries later, this is how you do this, and then left. So it could be that something like that happened. I like my movies. So like the movie Elysium, the earth gets so polluted that the rich people go live in Elysium, right? And all these other people down here on earth, struggling. So take that to being more of a cataclysmic situation. That would be what happens. or in any disaster movie, like what was the one, Impact? Yeah, they had the little lottery thing, but they picked certain people that needed to survive, and they were going to get to go into the cave, where everybody else figure this shit out. Survive if you can. Like if a big, me and Angie was talking about this last night. These are the conversations that we have. We're sitting in here and we're like, and we saw something that was talking about a solar flare, some movie or some show or something was talking about, oh, it was a commercial. It was a commercial about a big solar flare and sunspots and stuff. And it was going to disrupt the earth. Well, they were just going to give another hour. So it was going to disrupt the earth so that our rotation spun just slow enough that we gained another hour in our day, every day. But if like a big solar flare, solar wind hit, the top level economically and intellectually are going to get whisked away, while the rest of us are going to be left here to figure this shit out. And let's say they're gone for 100 years. When they reemerge, they've been still growing technologically, while we would have been reduced back to at least at best an agrarian barter state. So if you got a few hundred years of we've been regressed back to that, and then here comes these people, those civilizations gonna be like, damn, these motherfuckers flying in the air, and they able to heal people that we couldn't heal people from, and they could think that they're gods. But that kind of separation happens. That's why everybody needs to become rich for survival. Grand Rising Echo. Yep, and I missed a whole bunch of y'all statements. But Mars core cooled down, and that caught me. I did see that theory, Ricky, about Mars core cooling down, and that messed up the atmosphere. Now, some of that red color, actually, Mars is brown, more of a brown than a red. NASA admits that they add a red coloring to Mars on all the pictures that they have, but it's more of a brown than a red. My pleasure, Alice. Grand Rising, Norman. Norman is talking about when they move the moon into our orbit, it caused a planetary catastrophe. So the Zulu and who's the other group? It's one of the Greek groups. But the Zulu and one of the Greek island groups talks about a time frame before the moon was in our atmosphere and when the moon came into our atmosphere. Right? And I remember the Zulu story is something like before the moon came into our atmosphere, the Earth was misty like Venus, right? So if you can imagine, without our moon, we don't have ocean currents the way we do now. We don't have storms. So without the ocean currents, you're not going to have the storms that we have now, and waves, that sort of thing. You're not going to have as much sea life. It's going to be like big ass lakes. The oceans will be like big lakes. And with that situation, then now when the moon does come in, it messes up everything on Earth. I mean, you're talking about you're going to wind up having tidal waves and earthquakes and all kinds. And with the earthquakes, you're going to start having volcanic eruptions. It's going to mess up a lot of stuff. If that's a reality and the moon coming into our orbit, it would change some of the gravity in our small solar system, in the closest parts of our solar system. How much effect would it have on Mars? I'm not smart enough. I don't have enough information to know how much. I ain't gonna say I'm not smart enough because I can learn whatever I want to learn, but I don't know what kind of effect that will have on Mars. I mean, it depends on how it comes through, where it comes through. if they messed up and flew too close to Mars, if the moon is a movable object, a megastructure, then they could have flew too close to Mars and messed up Mars some more. All kind of shit can happen, depending upon how it's done. If there was no life on Mars, they probably not wouldn't care, or they, even if it was like, they could have not cared. So, but it's an interesting thought. We only have those two stories about the moon coming in. But if you ever watch the movie Moonfall, it gives a good demonstration of how the moon affects this planet. But it's possible. So who created us? Depends on what you would call creation, Lucky. Grand Rising. And the internet is great, but you gotta, yeah, get beyond those who control it. One of these days I will invest into getting into not the dark web, not the crazy shit in the dark web, but there's a whole level, what you find on things like Google on the regular web is only about 10% of the information that's out there. But there's three levels to the internet. There's the regular web that we all deal with, Google level. Then there's the dark web. That's all the crazy shit. But there's a middle area that has overwhelming majority of information. I want to get in. I forgot what it's called, but I want to get in there. I got to set up the VPNs and all that stuff to work with in that, to be able to search in there. You'll be able to access more information from research centers, colleges, all those kinds of places, because you'll be connecting directly to their servers. Credo Matwa, Matwa, Mutwa. Yeah, I don't know about the extraterrestrial life, but who created us? Depends on whose story you want to accept. I don't think we'll ever. I don't think we would know unless some Anunnaki or some people came and say, "Yeah, we mess with y'all genome, and here's our records of doing that, and this is our scientific proof to show you that we did that." Now I know there seems to be some DNA that was fused into our DNA. It doesn't look naturally occurring, so it's possible that somebody did mess with the DNA of whatever ancient hominid was here. Do I think that people will land on Mars in our lifetime and imagine being as big as a moon landing? Oh, I think it will be. And I think sometime at some point, we will go to Mars. I don't go for the whole, oh, we got a dome over us and we can't penetrate the dome. And I think we can go through the Van Allen belt at its thinnest place, which is at the North or South Pole, which is why every launch on the Northern Hemisphere aims for the North Pole area in order to get through this window of the Van Allen belt. And then there are certain time frames that they have to launch in order to get through it. And we may at some point develop shielding that allows us to go through the Van Allen belt at any point. So if they move, yeah, I don't know if the Zulu story of them, the moon coming into our place, but it's just interesting that they have it. Pyramids of Korea by telekinesis. If, I believe think that we do have that power. Oh, thank you, Olmec. You give a donation, you definitely get your question asked and answered. Kardashian, if I know it, Kardashian scale on the planet is level. Uh, it's level one, but in the movie Moonfall with Halle Berry, there was a similar planet, and the Kardashian scale was at level 3 with the super Wi-Fi. and it was in the past. What is the Kadesha scale? I appreciate the donation, sir. I always appreciate that when people do that. So let me ARD. Kardashian scale. Is a method of measuring a civilization's level of technology advancement based on the amount of energy it is capable of using. The measure was proposed by Soviet astronomer Nikolai Kardashev in 1964 and named it after him. The scale is a hypothetical and refers to the energy consumption. The common scale varies depending on the scale. Okay. So based on the type of energy that we are able to consume and utilize, that tells the level of the civilization. A level 2 civilization directly consumes star energy, most likely through the use of a diosphere. I wish civilization is able to capture all the energy emitted in this galaxy, and that's a level 3. Right, we're only able to, we're level, I see how you're saying we're level 1 because we only can grab the energy that's available on this planet. Should I be able to, now if we could control earthquakes and volcanoes and eruptions, I mean, they produce so much power. If we was able to control that power and utilize that power to as a functionable for us, that would be an amazing advancement. But to be able to harness a diosphere, to be able to create and use a diosphere, now that would be some amazing shit right there. Now, if past civilizations, because in that movie they showed civilizations that was on another planet that was able to harness a star, a white dwarf, and use that energy to create a diosphere, which allowed them huge amounts of technology. But of course, AI decided to kill all their asses, and that's one of the premises of Moonfall, that AI found this planet after searching through the universe for billions of years and was trying to kill us. Even though some people don't like Moonfall, I love that movie. I think it was great. Oh, you're Zulu? Outstanding. When I was younger, I used to wish, after watching Shaka Zulu, I was like, I want to be Zulu. So when I was figuring out my family's heritage, and I found out, my mother, the closest I got is that my mother's side mostly emanates from Nigeria. I was like, damn, close, but no cigar. Right. But there may be some hidden messages in our DNA from the fusing, that what looks like fusing. So it'd be interesting to, yes, the deep web. Thank you, Oki. I want to get into the deep web. I've been reading about it so that I can do it without getting myself in trouble. All right, and there's a whole bunch of different creation stories. But Kubrick was a puppet. I know that documentary that they tried to make, that say that had Stanley Kubrick saying that he faked the moon landing, that the actual documentary is a fake. Surface, deep, and dark. Okay, thank you. Yeah, I just want to get into the deep web. I want to go into the dark web. Yeah, there's not enough evidence for me to believe that the moon was put in place. Now, there are some interesting facts about the moon. The fact that it seems like after you get a certain depth, it's all titanium. It's mostly titanium. I won't say all, but the fact that every impact on the moon has the same depth, that doesn't make sense to me. How can it all have the same depth unless there is something, some shell around it, whether it's natural or unnatural, that it doesn't, you can't penetrate. Nothing has hit it to penetrate it. So that part got me like, so what's on the inside? We start. This is supposed to be about pyramids. Oh well, we now went past an hour, so can't ever stay on subject, can we? For longer than 45 minutes to an hour, unless I force it. It's all right because this is Ramsey's fault for bringing up the pyramids on Mars. I do remember how this one's flipped. The Iceland servers are pretty locked on restriction. Maybe by starting. Maybe try starting, and if you know what you're looking for, it's a wonderful, but be careful. With the keystroke mistake could put you in the dark. That's why I'm studying it before I actually do it. Because I do not have time to get caught up into some bullshit. Oh yeah, I love Shaka Zulu. He was cruel as shit, but I still love the movie. I love the show. And I do respect a lot of the things he did. Yeah, a whole bunch of things that went through the asteroid belt. What we got, Voyager 1, Voyager 2, and some other things that's satellites. But we need to see some people. I don't know. We did a whole thing about was the moon landing fake. I don't think it was fake personally. Grand Rising Marcus. Say your guy has a birthday. You started on Hillary Clinton in one of her rituals. See, playing around. I will be looking for mostly archaeological information for the most part. The moon is probably part of the Earth. An asteroid hit the Earth so hard that some of the Earth broke off and the moon was created. That one, the problem with that one is that the moon rocks that they had don't show enough similarities to Earth rocks. Um, so that one's a little like possible, but not really enough information, enough geologically, that doesn't pan out yet. And I say yet. What were the original purposes of the pyramids that most ancient civilizations built? Ceremonial, tombs, and only the Gaza pyramid seems to be energy structures. But the rest of them seem to be ceremonial based on some astrological event, or they were burial chambers. So they are not all the same because culture is going to make them different, and time frame of build going to make them different. Google was the landing CGI NASA gas to the fake and landing in the 8-minute delay. Was the landing CGI? NASA has to fake the landing just to show the public. Now, do I think that our government, especially at that time frame, being in a space race against the USSR, would do some bullshit to fake a moon landing in order to, in the public view, make us seem like we got there before them? It's possible. Government has done a bunch of shit like that. It's possible. Do I think that by this time, and to hell with American leaks, I think that Russia would have been, the USSR would have been the main group that was like, this is bullshit, this is bullshit, this is bullshit, and we're going to show y'all that it's bullshit, right? But Russia never did that. The USSR never went against America's claims. And there was no treaty that was struck, no deal that was struck that we know of. There was no resources that was. We wind up beating USSR in the arms race. We just, spent so much money that they couldn't keep up. I don't. From the time that I spent in Russia, and I asked the question a lot while I was there, like different people who's supposed to be knowledgeable and higher up. I'm like, why didn't Russia say that the moon landing was fake? Because back then I was arguing with my cousin about the moon landing because he's the first person I ever heard that came with the it's fake, it's fake, it's fake. So I'm like, I'm asking these Russians, like, hey, why your government? And I'm asking old Russians too. Like, well, I'm calling them old, but I was in my 20s. They were in their 50s and 60s. So to me, they were old. I'm like, hey, why was it? And these are guys who were government officials back then, and they were still in government. So I'm like, why? Well, why didn't y'all like fight against that? And he was like, there was nothing to fight against. A lot of them, I ain't gonna say he, but all of them were males that I was talking to, but they were like, there was nothing to fight against. The flag was waving. There are solar winds, man. The space is not devoid, and there is a tiny bit of an atmosphere on the moon. It's not significant enough for us to have, to have water to have life on it, but it's there. Everything can't be like, oh, if it's not like Earth, then it can't have wind. If it's not like Earth, it can't have this or that. Is there any proof on who created the pyramids in Kemet? The Great Pyramids of Gaza? No, there's absolutely no proof because there's no Meta Netchers in those pyramids on Gaza. Other pyramids throughout Egypt, they tell you exactly who built them. They tell you the ones that was built by the different pharaohs or higher ups, but the Gaza ones have absolutely no hieroglyphics in them at all. There are some graffitis, but there's no hieroglyphics. And the Kemetic people put hieroglyphics on damn near everything that they built. They told their story. They were going to get all the claim. They wanted all, they got all their claims. They let you know who built it. But the Great Pyramids, nothing. Absolutely nothing. So they just assigned it to Khufu. I'm not gonna say like a huge gust of wind, but you know, and you say it was waving too much. We don't we can't compare it to Earth. We just simply shouldn't compare it to Earth. Oh, well, it's blowing like it blow on Earth. Got to be wind. It got to be the regular type wind that we have. It could be all kinds of different things going on. Say it was flat without an atmosphere as long as it's given a shove. A shove. Yeah, just by placing it in the ground and moving it. We getting into conspiracy stuff with that one, Illumi. The royal family, the Vatican, and a few of the 13 families know the entire truth. Things we can't prove. Those are theories. Can't prove those. Now, are there people out there who know way more about truthful things than we do? Of course, I would agree with you on that one. Is it those people? And then are they in cahoots all on the same thing? One thing that people should realize, these groups are not all in agreement with each other. Uh, some of them fight against each other, you know? Like I'm pretty convinced that the Bohemian Grove and the Bilderbergs don't like each other. Yeah, and the people in the Exodus story didn't create the pyramids. That's for damn sure. The mountain sphinx in the Orsini Mountains in Romania. I don't know about those. Actually, this is I'm today years old hearing about that. Uh, unfortunately, with the current antiquities guy, Sahari Hawass, in charge of the office research in the area, we can't expect to learn much more than what we currently know. Yeah, that guy's, and I'm gonna say it, he's an ass. He is just trying to protect what people already have accepted, and doesn't want anything rewritten. He think he's protecting their history, but he's really not. I've never seen where Neil Armstrong stated that it was fake. Yeah, and that's another reason why I think we don't go to the moon. There's no monetary value in it. What are we going to mine there? What are we going to get? And if there's no monetary value, definitely not a military strategic value to it. We're not going to keep going back. We ain't going to spend that money. McMillan and Hoffman wrote our school curriculum, and one of them is related to Charles Darwin, Margaret Sanger. No, I get what you mean by like the 13 families and all these other people who are controlling certain things. So I do agree with you on that one. That there's a shadow government, so to speak. No, the Bilderbergs don't go to the Bohemian Grove party. You have a few members that might be in both, but they seem to have different agendas. The flag was not a loose flag; it has a pole across the top like an L. Hmm. I seen a clip of him trolling, and he said it was a joke. Talking about Neil Armstrong. Yeah, and I'm very the YouTubers I listen to. I look for who they research. If uh, I look at who they state that they're getting their claims from, what other archaeologists, and most of the time I go directly to that archaeologist or that scientist or historian or whoever. But as far as start talking about the damn moon, uh, I read somewhere that the Great Pyramid of Giza is actually Mount Sinai, where Moses brought the commandments down. If somebody said that, they full of some bullshit. We know exactly where Mount Sinai is. Uh, it's in the Sinai Peninsula. It is, and we know well. We know where the mount most likely is, and but we do know the mountain range for Mount Sinai. But no, the pyramids was not Mount Sinai. Um, See, both the Bilderberg Group and the Bohemian Grove look to control world economics and people who are in power. So it's kind of like Republicans and Democrats. They both think that they got the right people and got the right strategy to control government and economics. But oftentimes, who they want in power differs. And it's basically in that thought process is based on the top people in each one of those organizations. I don't know about them finding. I didn't see them say they found aluminum. I know that they say that there was. I forgot who said they found titanium on the moon. I think we did. I think America said they found titanium. It was titanium. Uh, was on the moon. So two sides of the same coin. Yep. Yeah. Like presidents are world leaders are pre-selected for the most part. You gonna get who they want in office. But whatever is on there, it's not. We can't. It's not. We need. We would have to have more durable and faster travel in order to actually mine anything on the moon. There's definitely. I do think that there's a shadow government. Um, there are Freemasons on all sides of it. Freemasonry is not as unified as people think. It is. It's not. It's not that unified. But there are people. There are Masons on in everything. Hell, the doctor you go see is probably a Mason. Police forces all over the world Masons. Militaries all over the world Masons. But they're, you know, you got uh, shit Masons in America, and we go to war, and let's say we go to war against Britain. You're gonna have Freemasons on both sides fighting each other. So to say like, oh, Freemasonry, they're controlling everything. It's not unified like that. If that was, think about it like this when you say Freemason. Um, Thomas Jefferson, Freemason. George Washington, Freemason. Disagree with each other tremendously. You know, what was my man? They made the little documentary. I mean, not the documentary, the musical that I love. Hamilton, Freemason. Couldn't stand George Washington. I mean, couldn't stand Thomas Jefferson or James Madison. All of them were Freemasons. They didn't agree with each other. So being a part of that doesn't make you all, oh, we're unified because we're all Freemasons. No, it doesn't work that way. Just like we're all Americans, but I'm a Republican, I'm a Democrat. You met a few low level Masons. Well, nice to meet you, Orion. I'm I'm like mid level. Uh, and I say, even though I'm a 32nd, that's actually technically 32nd would be low level technically, but since there are so very few 360, there I mean, mid level. I figured you meant one, but these groups will. I don't think they like I said they don't all agree, so you can't put that on the world. But definitely, in the same way that you have lobbyists pulling strings, you got different groups of people who have come together and they're pulling strings as well. And this happens all over the world. Uh, Pretty much every government has a shadow government. I don't. There's not. I'm trying to think if there's a government that's actually freewheeling, but I don't think that there's any government that's without people behind the scenes pulling their strings. They all got that. Even if it's just another government that's pulling this government strings, there's always somebody else behind the scenes from what we see that's in front of us. And that's Lumi, you just said it perfectly. We will never know who really pulls the strings. That's the whole reason you are a shadow government, is that you stay in the shadows. Yep, Hamilton was a Federalist. I forgot who did the Federalists become. But you know these parties be changing. Yeah, it's the whole concept of the Wizard of Oz. I'm showing you the wizard, but it's just a dude behind the curtain. I'm also living a good life. No TV, no radio. I take cell phones seriously. No, I can't claim no TV. I don't do radio. I don't watch the news too much. I watch African news more than I watch American news. That's where the gold is in Africa. You better wake up to that one on a financial level. But I also think that's where the next, if we ever get hit World War III, well, World War World War III won't be fought in Central Africa, South Saharan Africa, but North Africa and Middle East, it'd be fought there. Politicians, the best magic, they make crimes disappear like a champ. Oh, we'll still be here in 5 minutes, Orion. Trust and believe. We were only an hour. We're only 2 hours in. We gotta get at least another hour. You believe that one day Africa will be the next superpower? It if they continue to join, this is what I think will happen in Africa over the next 50 years. Especially once they solidify the East African Federation and other African nations start seeing the power dynamic change because of that and the financial growth, other groups of other countries will form like these South African Federation and the West African Federation. And I think, and then the Northern Arab country will form like the North African Federation. I think Africa will eventually, in 50 years, be, if not already there, headed towards four major nations. And when that happens, that will change. Those four nations will become major power players in the world. November 3rd is when it's supposed to. Because I haven't paid attention too much right now recently to what's been going on. I know they was taking forever to get this damn to get the Constitution drawn up. The president of Uganda is just slow as shit at getting that done. There's spookism in religion as much as there is in fraternal orders. Yeah, but there's more in religion, way, way more than it is in fraternal orders. And China has been, I ain't gonna say they're buying up Africa, they're investing in a lot of Africa. Some countries have changed and don't let China, they won't let them buy land. No. But they have certainly have been building business, doing contracts, and mostly doing contracts. China's approach on Africa is not what the American media tells you all the time. Uh, what China actually is doing is just investing in Africa, putting money into projects that are being done in Africa. And yeah, they hold the projects and they're holding the loan on those projects. But although they've had maybe 20, 30 projects fail out of the 100 and 200 that they've financed, they have yet to shut down or take control of one of those projects that has failed uh, because they're making so much money on the other end. So China is just looking to make money and have influence, not so much buying the land. You know, Chinese business is business, while American business is war. Yeah, they snuck a lot of Chinese in during the. Yeah, and China has been putting some military bases in some African countries, but you got to look at Africa is so freaking huge. There's no way China is going to take control of Africa. That's big. That's like a country trying to come and attack America or even attack China or Russia. It's too damn big. What exactly is happening in the Congo? They need new leadership. They need a whole lot of. They need new leadership that's not being a puppet of some of the European countries because Congo And I'm not talking about the Democratic Republic of Congo. I hope we talking about just Congo. Congo could become one of the wealthiest nations in the world if they had the right type of leadership. So I'm glad that their people are starting to realize, have been realizing that, and are fighting against that puppet ass government they got. Oh, you're saying snuck a lot of Chinese here in America? Oh, I didn't know that. Like I said, I don't pay attention to American news because 10 years from now I won't even be here. Like this, y'all can have this money. Probably less than 10 years, but y'all can have this money. All I know is that they highly underestimate our country's rednecks and black communities. We got all the guns. Yeah, true. But Yoshi, like I tell a lot of guys, you give me a battalion of Marines, a weapons battalion, an armored vehicle battalion, and a helicopter battalion, I could take Georgia and hold it with just that many people. And yeah, there's like 10 million people in Georgia, and I'm only talking about maybe 3,000-4,000 people, and I will take Georgia, and all the little guns and all your little shotguns and 9 mils, you won't be able to take it. I will eat Georgia up. All these people with guns, these homeowners and these guys out in the countryside, I will take Georgia and whoop their ass. The problem is, can you get the military to do that? And we demonstrated in 1995 that if that was ever attempted, you would have, um, you basically have a civil war within the military. And so those kind of things were kind of messed up. Now, for a different country attack, of course, our military is there. The support of the civilians would be helpful, but mainly it's like, man, y'all stay back. Yep, there's still a lot of puppet governments in Africa, but those are being sorted out. Say you and your husband are leaving too. Gotta go, gotta go. Yep, Rome did fall from within first before what the Visigoths came and really kicked their ass. Curiosity, where are y'all thinking about going, Illumi? I don't know if you want to call you Illumi or Nikki or Blanco. I'm not gonna say the whole thing, but where y'all plan on going? I have a few ideas where I want to go. Cambodia, all right. Your money goes a lot further in Cambodia than it does in most places. Mhm. But uh, you gotta, for me, it's economical, and it's, I have a plan to uplift the minorities in America by truly creating a state within a state in America, a country within a country within America, and having those connections in Africa. Yeah, no, they don't stand a chance. Oh, your husband's motorcycle club practically runs that country, and they're the largest in the world. Oh, I might need to get connected with you and your husband. I likes connections. Oh, he's a one percenter. Gotcha. Some of us are waiting on parachutes. We got lots of ammo. Yeah, yeah, but the problem with all that ammo and parachute, you got command and controls. I mean, when I can shoot you or blow you up from a mile away, 2 miles away, 5 miles away, ain't really much you can do about it. He's in the rebels. Okay. Brian B. You missed it. Usually, this is why I say go back to the beginning. But the short, simple answer is pyramids are the easiest thing to build. You don't have to be taught those things. But some of the pyramids were built way longer, way older than others because they seem to be more technologically advanced than some of the other ones. Like the Gaza pyramids are more advanced than the pyramids in Sudan. Uh, but we don't know who built those. The other ones in Aztecs and Mayan ones are some are more advanced than others, but those were built more ceremonially. Most of them in the world are built for ceremonies, whereas the many of the African ones are built for barrier chambers, except for the Gaza plateau. Those are not barrier chambers. But basically, we don't know who built the oldest ones, but the people of their days built their own. They always have a plan A to Z. You gotta have plans A to Z. Are you a proper also? Oh, you meant prepper for the end time, for the end of this country? Yes and no. Am I prepared right now as I used to be? Where I used to have stockpiles of water and MREs and survival equipment and ammunition and all that stuff. Not as much as I used to be. Um, my prepping now is more get the hell on. Yoshi said he's not even a redneck. He was raised in a big city, moved to a small town in my 30s, been a redneck ever since. Does each pyramid line up with stars? No, they don't. Um, unless you count the sun. A lot of pyramids, a lot of ancient sites line up with the sun more so than stars. The Giza pyramids lines up with stars, but the most of them line up with the sun. So most of them have something to do with some type of sun worship or the belief that in their afterlife that they needed the sun energy for their afterlife. Okay, so I'm making anybody fault. It'll be the good citizens with the gun that takes out the other country's terrorists. Terrorists. How do you know which ones are terrorists and which ones are just citizens? America is such a not a melting pot. It's such a fruit salad. I don't think that the hard part. Like I saw this video where, and I think they did it as a joke. These two Arab guys were using hand signals to talk to each other, and then the people got all restless and jumped the guy, and he was like, "Man, my brother deaf." You know, we were using our sign language. Can't just assume people are terrorists. I'm surprised nobody has said anything about the Great Pyramids that I was waiting. I was waiting to see. Do the U.S. has weapons in the sky? I shall neither confirm nor deny. No, I think we do. I think we do. I don't know, but I think we do. I think we. I don't think the Star Wars program was ever shut down. What non-Hague countries do you suggest? I've never had anybody ask me about non-Hague countries. I don't even know which countries are non-Hague right now. All right, I know they're aligned with Asar's belt. Now, when the bullets start flying, you'll know. Yes, that's definitely. a chamber that holds. No, the spaceship is not supposed to be held under the. When I wait a minute, is it the pyramids? I thought that was the Sphinx. That there's supposed to be a chamber up on it, up under it. That's supposed to hold a spaceship. Um, yeah, it's supposed to be a. Yeah, that's the. Yeah, that's supposed to be under the Sphinx, I believe. I don't know. That's why I want to be a pyramid priest so I can go up under the Sphinx. There's also supposed to be a city up under the Sphinx as well. Ooh, Latvia is a non-hate country. It wasn't cold, but I love Latvia. Now, of course, the conditions that you want to live under makes a huge difference as to which non-hate country to live in. Right off the bat, I would definitely say Ghana and Kenya. But like I said, depending on what your lifestyle that you're looking for, Ghana, Kenya, Portugal, Malta, Moldova would be good. But depending upon how much money you got and what type of lifestyle you want to live, but as far as peaceful living, it depends on what you want to live. Why you're what lifestyle. But for me, Ghana, Kenya, Portugal, Moldova. Um, if it wasn't for the cold, I would go to Latvia, go live in Riga. But I don't do cold. No, I don't think the Star Wars. I don't think that was ever stopped. No, Freemasonry is not as unified as people think. Like the headquarters in London doesn't dictate what all Freemasons must do and how they must act. And there are Freemasons, uh, somewhat headquarters in like Egypt and Spain. Even the one in America don't is like, okay, England, we're gonna give you some. We'll let you handle the charters and stuff. But if they don't do, we don't do what England tells us to do. Yeah, there's some passages under the Sphinx, but yeah, and under some of and under the pyramids, but they won't let you go in there. Yes, I've heard of Yakub. This is Yakub is a dumbass story that was created by the Nation of Islam. I didn't know that Canada became communist. I thought they were socialists. Masonry does go back further than the Egyptians. Actually, the deeper rites that most won't accept is that even Masons don't accept is that um, Freemasonry would go all the way back to the legends, and I say legends of Atlantis, because you'll some of the things that are attributed to Atlantis, the knowledge of Atlantis, what we have, what we think we know, is within Freemasonry. But the Egyptian rites are definitely one of the way directions. It's been around since ancient Kemet, the Nubio Cometics. Yeah, the big head goofy scientists. Yeah, that dude Yaku. We talked about that a couple days ago, I think. To correct my status. Oh, that's from the non-Hague countries. Yeah. What about the pyramids found in a cavern in Arizona and the one in the cavern in Alaska? What about them? I mean, pyramids are going to be that's the simplest thing is that every culture built triangular shaped structures because that's a natural critical thinking way of building anything. So I don't think somebody came and showed them how to build them. They would have built it anyway. European Freemasons are not the ancient order. Nope, they're not. Goes farther back than them. Those orders came out of the Crusades. Yeah, they picked that up after the Crusades, after the Knights Templars were destroyed, and then a few hundred years later, kind of picked it back. But they were still around. They just was more hidden, and they came back out. The Yakub story is just a story. Right, and there's supposed to be a pyramid in the Bermuda Triangle. We're not sure if the one in Antarctica is actually a pyramid. Uh, so, but like I said, it's a basic structure. Everybody would have built that anyway. Grand Rising, Brown Butterfly. Wouldn't it be easier to build a cube than a pyramid? No. A cube would require a lot more material than building a pyramid. And a pyramid is going to have a stronger structure than a cube. And here's the thing, that was one of the things that I learned when I used to work for my grandfather's construction company. That building in a pyramid structure is stronger and takes less material than building a cube type structure. Hey, maybe it's like, what was the movie? Stargate. The pyramids was a landing port for the alien. I was just playing. I was just playing. Yeah, that dude won't have a real conversation. He won't let people really figure that out, like demonstrate what it really is. So Billy Carson be lying about the aliens building the pyramids. I think he's taking a theory and trying to make it fact. If you call that lying, sure. But as far as aliens building it, no. He's really running with the Anunnaki story. Uh, but we can't prove the Anunnaki story. It's nothing more. I mean, we can't prove the Anunnaki story too much more than what the Sumerians wrote. The only thing we can see that's kind of like in that evidence stage is they just burst on the scene knowing shit that it doesn't make sense that they just knew it as if somebody came and told them. That's about as far as you can go with that type of proof of them so far. Hopefully soon we find out some more stuff. I'd be happy if I would actually be happy if some group showed up, weird looking as alien looking, and say, "Look, we the ones that they thought were Anunnaki. Here's all our proof that we was here. We've been here for like 200,000 years, and this is what we did." I'd just be like, "Okay, all right then. Now, as long as y'all ain't trying to destroy us or make us enslave us, we can get along." People will be fearful as hell, and prejudice will be all over the place. But yes, Jonathan, we definitely, I don't know about gateways to move from lower and higher dimensions. They could have been spiritual people. I'm sure that people thought of them as spiritual things as well. It's just like the Bimini Road, Bimini Wall, where people thought that if you swim butt naked around the Bimini Wall that it'll heal you from different diseases. I'm sure they used them for those type of ceremonies as well, to believe they reached into different dimensional planes within themselves. Look, here's the thing about Billy Carson. You got to look at, it's a business as well as trying to get knowledge out there. Now, if I changed up everything and stuck, and let's say I became an Atlantean supporter, and you can make a bunch of things seem like it's the Atlanteans, it's the Lemurians, it's the Atlantis and Lemuria were in a war, and the people of Mu, all three were world factions, and they was in this massive war, and they destroyed the planet, and they were fighting each other. You can make a lot of things fit that. Now, with the little bit of evidence that we have, you can make it work. And you can make a career out of it. And you can make some money off of it. I think he's taken more of the business line of it instead of just having the mindset of, I'm looking at things for what they are. And if this is just a theory, it's just a theory. This is all the evidence that lead to it. But here's all the evidence that goes against it. Which is one of the reasons why my channel is not as popular. I'm not just going to run with one thing if there's evidence that goes against it. That's like I said in the beginning of this video. Even with John Hancock and his Ancient Apocalypse, there's some evidence for some of the things he says, but not concrete. There's a bunch of evidence that goes against what he says. And some of that evidence is more concrete. That's not sensationalism. I'm not sensationalist. I'm not a sensationalist. So it's not going to, people like, oh, yeah, conspiracy, ooh. But going against the mainstream is a great business move, to be honest. Say we built those pyramids. We built some of the pyramids. A lot of the pyramids, people built them. People from the last 8, 9, 10,000 years built them. But the Gaza pyramids, I don't think we built them. I think there was a previous civilization that built them things. We ain't built those. He's an actor. I think he just took the business route. That's going to make him more money. You don't trust people with millions of followers. So what you saying, if I get 1 million followers, Illumi, you gonna stop trusting me? You found my channel after watching a bunch. I appreciate that. Do they line up with anything? Are you talking about the pyramids? The Gaza pyramids line up with the Asar's belt and Asar's womb. I refuse to call Asar's womb the Canis, Canis Major. To me, that was them denigrating a woman, not just because she's a Kemetic woman, but just denigrating women, period, by changing the Aset's. I said, my bad, Aset's womb, by changing Aset, who is Isis to the Greeks, by changing her into a dog, and maybe I'm leaning too much on the fact that we call dogs the B word and relating that to a woman. I just can't do it. Okay, so you've been watching me long enough. So when I get to that 1 million, you're still going to be here. We're going to get to 1 million on Facebook. One long day away from now, we'll get to 1 million. But we clicking. We clicking. We grew 10,000 over October. So we click. We're doing some things. If we can grow 10,000 a month, god dang, that'll take a long time to get to 1 million. No, I'm not going to change. The only thing that you'll ever hear me change is we find out some information that goes against something that I said today, and 10 years from now we find out something, then I'll change that. but we have to find it out. We got to prove it. I stay away from flat Earth as much as I possibly can. We that's a never-ending story of craziness to me. That's like talking to somebody who believes in religion, in Jesus. Because the basis of flat Earth is not science. The basis of flat Earth is religion. Now, Jonathan, I'm with you. If there were, I think that there are people. I don't think aliens are come here from another planet. I think that it's previous civilizations so far. I just don't see how anybody can travel that far in space unless there are theories of being able to travel great distances in space. But I just don't think I haven't seen if a civilization have mastered that, why wouldn't they just come and take Earth and take all its resources? Where are you located? Atlanta, Georgia, specifically Stone Mountain, Georgia. Coach, did you know the word galaxy means milk in Greek? That's why we call it the Milky Way. Many people think it called the Milky Way because it looks milky when you're out there in the middle of nowhere. But from my reading a long ass time ago, um, I knew that galaxy means milk. What's the area of the country, Africa or another country, that most Black Americans that were enslaved came out of? Because it's hard for many Black Americans to trace their roots before slavery. What's the area of the country or country? Oh, okay. Um, most most of the transatlantic came out of Nigeria, Ghana, Togo, Benin, um, Ivory Coast, Senegal, Maui. Not Maui, Mali, but mostly out of that Nigerian area. Oh, I didn't know. So they're supposed to be made out of metallic material. I have to look that up. What do you think of Matthew Lux? Don't know who that is. My buddy and his wife love your content in their group. What group is that? Because I appreciate it. They were here first. Okay. My brother showed me a map or a theory. Everybody, since he moved next door, I own a duplex. I'd be like, dude, it's a TikTok. What? I don't know what you mean by that one. My buddy showed me a map or a theory. Everybody, every day since he moved next door. Okay, you on the TikTok? You talking about the flat Earth stuff? Illumi, you live in Peachtree City? Girl, you and your husband down the street. See, I can do a meetup with somebody who live close like that. we, we can meet up. Um, Me and Angelina can meet up with you and your husband. I have to tag you because you did all your ancestry and it came up in your lineage. I have ancestral results. I know I had did all mine by paperwork back in the 90s. Of course, that was lost when my last military move, when they stole all my stuff, um, which I kind of felt like they were going to steal my stuff. I don't know why. I had a feeling that they were going to take a lot of my stuff was going to come up missing. Um, but the my daughter went and did her ancestry, paid for it, and I told her, I said, "Small, I don't know why you're doing that. I can tell you." And but it was good that she did it because everything. from my side of the family showed up in her ancestry. Now, I do think that was one thing that was interesting. On her mother's side, she should have gotten, uh, I forgot the tribe of Native American that her grandfather on her mother's side was half, like one half of, but she should have gotten that and she didn't. So I think there is some conspiracy within there to keep the number of people who can claim indigenous. If they have enough percentage of indigenous to claim some benefits, I think there's a thing. I think they try to keep those people from being able to do that. Because she should have, my kids should get about a decent amount of indigenous within their test. Oh, you used to. I can say I thought you was in Florida. Yeah, Port St. Lucie. Yeah, Peachtree City has changed a lot. It's growing up. You try to stay with the channel. You try. You gonna stay with the channel, okay? Nah, if you can't be flexible, then in your thought process, then you're doomed to ignorance. Where are you located? Didn't you already? Stone Mountain, Georgia. No, I don't know if you asked me. You were the same person that asked me that, but Stone Mountain, Georgia. So based some Freemason lodges may do different types of rituals than some other lodges. The lodges are there might be slight variations here and there, but for the most part, we do the same rituals. But there might be some slight variations depending upon which book they're using. But for the most part, there are the pillars are still going to be the same. Now, if you got one that's just doing whatever the hell, they're still under that guideline, but they're just doing things out of order. And then when you go to visit some other lodge or y'all meet with some other lodge, you wind up realizing how jacked up y'all are. But most of the teachings are still the same. I had to explain to him that planes don't travel in straight lines because it's a globe. Right, they don't. Oh, you in Morrow? I was just down there, not like 2 weeks ago. Down in Morrow. They stole a lot from us when we moved from Germany. Yeah. Them jokers will steal a lot of your shit in the military move. Mine was North African, West African, Indigenous, Puerto Rican, French, English. Yeah, everybody I know who's who got Puerto Rican bloodlines, they should be all mixed up. But we can meet up with Loose Weed. You down in Morrow. Yeah, the chatting does get harder with 1 million followers. It's even getting harder now with 34. There's 34,000 on Facebook, and then there's like 9,000 on YouTube. What kind of rituals? Can't tell you that one. They do rituals too at church too. Institutional cannibalism is communion. It sure is, but there's no cannibal rituals or pissing on people or all that other kind of stuff. The conspiracy people have you think we're in there doing sexual rituals and all that kind of stuff. It's nothing like that. Some Americans were eligible for college tuition to any school you wish to attend if you could prove your ancestry. Yeah, it would be great. My oldest daughter would greatly appreciate that if she could get that. Coach, I came across this before, and you can correct me if I'm wrong. The Milky Way got its name from when Hercules was breastfeeding from the goddess. I forget her name, and she woke up and pushed him off. And her breast milk went into the sky, and that's how you got. You know what? Now you're gonna make me go and research Milky Way again just to make sure I got it in my mind right. I hate when y'all bring up things that I haven't looked at in like 20 years. You know what? This is what I'm gonna do, Brian. I'm going to ask Angelina to do that for one of her really did you knows. So if you follow her page, see I'm doing that. See that slick right there? That's slick marketing. That's slick ass marketing. To have Angelina do a really did you know on her channel, really did you know about the Milky Way galaxy? Because I know she's going to do a lot of shooting before Sunday. Camel community is it sure hell is, especially when you got those groups like the Russian Orthodox and a lot of the Catholics who think that it actually turns into blood and wine inside your body. Do you eat babies? No, we don't eat babies. I'm trying to think, is there any ritual in Masonry where you eat anything? I don't think there's any eating or drinking rituals. I can say that one. Tell you what, if you, and this is anybody can go do it. Our books are not a secret. Matter of fact, Loose Weed, you down there in Morrow, you go to the Nubian bookstore, you can get um, our books that we use for ritual for most of the rituals, and you can read it for yourself, and you'll see that there's no baby eating, there's none of that. Now, of course, you can read it, but you ain't gonna understand all of it. You ain't gonna know a lot of the details of how it works, but there ain't none of that. You won't eat babies. Oh, you almost got with Dr. York's cult. I went down there to visit when I was 20, and I was like, oh hell no. And then I did wind up meeting a young lady who she was part of it. She lived down there. Um, I met her in 2018, and she was all up in that stuff. Yes, I've done some astral trips, especially on some mushrooms. Have you heard of the phonetics? Akara phonetics. I was about to say Phoenicians. Yep, them New Wumpians. Nubian bookstore and just say, well, so you walk in your far left corner is all the Mason books. And why? Why am I forgetting the name of the? It's the main one. There are different ones, but the main one that I like is the Duncans. Sorry, there you go, the Duncans. And you can read the Duncans can be purchased by anybody, and I think that that's one good way of dispelling a lot of these conspiracy theories is go read the damn book. Now, don't read it, and you'll see. And the book shows you our handshakes, passwords, all these different things. Now, I'll tell you this: if you come across a Mason and you try to fake your way, and if they are a knowledgeable Mason, they will quickly realize that you are a fake. That is not something that you want to happen. And there are certain things that they will say to you to acknowledge that you're fake. You won't know what to say because not everything is in those books. There are things that you won't know to say, and that's when they'll realize you're fake, and then they'll say something else or do something else. And if they are truly following the tenets, you will be marked as a fake, which you'll never be able to get in to any lodge because that will go. England is good. England and DC are good for keeping records. You'll never be able to get in, and Other Masons may find out that you're a fake, and you'll be working on a job or something like that, and then they found out that you try to fake your way into Masonry, and then all of a sudden you get fired. So don't try to fake it. But a lot of information is there that a person could pass themselves off as one. Is Kemet and Nubians the same people, or are they different? They are different. They're different people. The Nubians came, you had the Kemet people, you have the Nubian people. The Nubians came and conquered the Kemet for a while. Kemet people took it back. Then the Kemet people got mixed in with Greeks and everybody else, a whole bunch of different groups, Greeks, Phoenicians, Persians, and pretty much makes Arabs. I'm confused. Aren't Freemasons negative? There are negatives in every group, but as a whole, no. Yeah. Like most Shriners are Masons. Shriners and Masons are not the same, but they got a whole big hospital. Most of the money they raise is for the hospitals. Now, I would say Freemasons probably do more actual charity work than most charitable organizations. Former X Factor then says one of the Freemason rituals is drinking wine from a skull. Are you saying that's another made up myth? I am definitely saying that's a made up myth. And what degree are they saying that you drink wine from a skull? I know where they got that from. I can't tell you, but I know where they got that from. But there's no drinking wine from a skull. And I know the symbology of what it's talking about from that. Yes, I am, Trump. Sure will blacklist you. You'll get some knowledge, but you ain't gonna, and you'll get some knowledge from reading that book that you actually can apply to your life. That's good shit to apply. But the other benefits of the brotherhood, you will not get. This channel and redacted are the only channels I make effort to watch. I appreciate that. Even though money is funneled to the bad guys from the Shriners, it's like your tax dollars are funneled to the bad guys in the government. It's like a different. It's just like Knights Templars are. Well, Knights Templars used to be different. Skull and Bones are different, but a lot of Skull and Bones people are Masons. Reading the artist way. And read 2 books this month. Okay. Well, of course, after the anti-Masonic Party in the 1950s really did a number on the reputation of Masons, and then you have other organizations that did a number on it. And most of the time, they were government organizations that did a number on the reputation of them. And it pissed me off because Masons didn't fight it. In the 1950s, they thought that being silent and not fighting against it, and their members would just demonstrate their personalities, and people wouldn't do that. But people are sheep in general. And if the government is saying it and the church is saying it, then people go with what the government and the church is saying. So I thought that they should have fought it, and they didn't. But now you got larger Masonic groups trying to fight it, like the biggest organization in Indiana. They put videos out trying to give people correct information concerning Masonry. It's not too late, but it's an uphill climb now. We live on an extraterrestrial planet. The pyramids of Gaza were built by the Neteru of the planet of their age. Shrines keepers of the Kaaba. The Kaaba stood before and after Solomon's temple. I'm not. I hear you, except for the extraterrestrial planet part, but I hear. All right, Tonka knows, but I don't know about the Netaru. Um, but yeah, of their age, I don't. I can't guarantee. I can't validate that because I don't have any proof of that of the Netaru building it. But definitely long before Solomon. They believe in anything. They meaning people, the general population. A person is a very smart individual and critically thinks. But people as a group are dumbass sheep and will follow whatever the government or the church says and just go with it. Whatever makes more sense to them, hits them emotionally, and whatever the larger group says, they'll just follow along. It's kind of like if you Oprah Winfrey did this thing on one of her shows. She had people just get in a line, right? She had some people get in line. And then they watched and saw how many other people got in line. And then they later asked them, why did you get in line? I don't know. I saw all these other people in line. So I got in line. I didn't want to miss whatever I was getting in line for. People just get in line. I seen it recently. We was at one of my favorite places, Bucky's. And Angelina had made comments like, oh, they got an application interview line over there. And if there's only one place that I would go work right now, and that's Bucky's. I like Bucky's. And their pay is great. So I went over there by the line, and I forgot to tell Angelina this. When I went over by the line, there was a guy in line. He just got in the damn line. He didn't even know why, but he just got in the dang old line. Because when I had walked past him and I was coming around, this guy was like, so what is this line for? And then the people told him, and then he got out of line. And he was just a customer who was traveling. What's wrong with you? Yes, humans are cattle. I read that the origin of the name David comes from the ancient Kemetic and is a title, not a name. It means commander. And if they use to have a 6-point star on their lapels. Did you ever hear that? That sounds familiar, but I can't pull it. It sounds familiar though, but I'm not exactly sure. Oh, let me do all this stuff because some dude chopped up one of my videos. Like, look at him, he's Satan making hand signals. That's for whoever that dude is. And really, my fingertips are cold. Yeah, my ex convinced me not to claim my inheritance. Claim what inheritance? Shit. Well, you go claim it now. What is your take on the Jesuits? Oh, the secret Catholic organization that was created in order to shut down King James' creation of his Bible. Yeah, I think Jesuits are just a Catholic organization designed to keep information in status quo and maintain their power, like the CIA of the Catholic Church. Yes, you can. Well, you you do your oaths on. If you get a Duncan, it's always going to say a Bible, but you don't have to be Christian to do it. You can do your oath on any book you choose. So you can do it on the Quran. You can do it on the Kabbalion, which is what I did. You can do it on any book. I am Satan. I think there's a book called The Masonic Myth uh, that I might buy and talk about some of the rites, symbols, and rituals Freemasons do, and try to dispel some of the myths allegedly in Freemasonry. Oh, I didn't know. I haven't heard of that book. Oh, she convinced you not to join the Freemasonry. Okay. Well, you can now. I've heard some people say that the Jesuits created Islam, but from my like I did a video, a two-part video a while back, about 6 years ago, called "The Origins of Judaism, Christianity, and Islam." The Islam is in part two, and from my research, the Jesuits actually had nothing to do with the creation of Islam. Islam was a small cult called the Mohammedans, and when Malik utilized that cult to galvanize his people to fight against Ibn Sahih, I keep on getting those names flip flop, and then but they were defeated, and then Ibn Sahih saw the dedication of those warriors based on that belief, and then adopted Islam, and then utilized that to conquer the rest of the Arab nation. But as far as the Jesuits creating it, none of my research demonstrated that the Jesuits created it. What's the Kabbalion? First, you got to spell it right. It is ancient Hermetic teachings. It is based on the 7 natural laws of the universe, and the law of mentalism, correspondence, vibration, frequency, polarity, cause and effect, gender, and how the universe functions. You said that other Freemasons book to look at the rituals and symbols of Freemasons called the Duncans. Yeah. Right. It's you. So why is it made to seem like it's a monster underground and a man in a skyboat to come down gangbanging with angels? What are you talking about, trauma? I know you said I don't know what that comment is for, but it seems interesting. Oh, you're probably talking about the Bible. Why does it look like there's a monster under the ground and a man in a skyboat to come down and bang angels? Magnetism to implement fear and control amongst the masses. Yeah, that's what the Bible is set up to do. Control you through fear. My fingertips are cold down here. I got the heater. But yeah, it's I tell you. One day we're gonna have 3 hours of talking about one subject. One day, I'm gonna come up with some shit, and we're gonna stick with it. But it's all right. I love how we just jump all around. Why is it made to seem like it's a superhero versus a villain? Talking about the Bible to control you. To control you. Yes, winter is coming. I think we're gonna have a cold ass winter in Georgia because it's colder now this time of year than it normally is. Hell, the administrator. Coach, I was just thinking about one of your videos. I think I saw it a couple of days ago about wouldn't you rather believe in God just in case, which is so stupid. Yeah, the Pascal's wager. It's better to just believe in God than to wager against it, because if you believe in God and God is real, then you go to heaven. If you don't believe in God and God is real, then you go to hell. If you believe in God and there is no God, then oh well. But that's only if you are saying the Christian God exists, right? But if the Muslim God exists, then you go into Muslim hell. It makes no sense. That's why Pascal Wazer is incredibly flawed. because it's based on the premise that the only God of existence is the Christian God. Did the Jesuits create the degrees within Masonry, or do they have anything to do with the degrees in Masonry? No, the Jesuits ain't got nothing to do with that. Masonry been around longer than the Jesuits have been around. And can we cover the question? The pyramids are. It's not hard to build a pyramid, just a basic pyramid, but the precision of some of these pyramids are incredibly difficult to build. Uh, the precision of the Gaza pyramids, and uh, there's another one I can't get in my head. It's one of the Aztec ones. It's incredibly hard to build, but just building a pyramid structure is not hard. But and that's the defining thing for me. The ones that are in Sudan, easier to build than the Gaza pyramids. Those are incredibly more difficult to build. And so it's really figuring out the timeline of who built them. We know when the Sudanese pyramids were built, but we really don't know when the Gaza pyramids were built. There are other pyramids in Kemet, we know. The ones in the Aztecs and Mayans, we know. But those other ones, they're very difficult. And the Gaza ones don't have anything written in them, so we have no idea. And he's white because of white privilege. you rolling with the Nation of Islam on that one from back in the day? That was Satan. That was white. So you do rituals like sacrifices? No. I sacrifice dumbass thoughts in my brain when they come across. But no, I don't do any sacrifices. Why is the Muslim God? Oh, good question. Why is the Muslim God different from the Jewish God? Does the Quran elaborate on Yahweh? Um, so right at the base, the simplest answer to that one, the Jewish God is just Yahweh. The Christian God is Yahweh, Jesus, and the Holy Spirit. The Muslim God is just El, right? But the Muslim God splits from the Jewish God in the line of between Isaac and Ishmael, and they separate at that point. Also, they don't look at the grouping of El and Yahweh mixed together as the Jewish God is that. They don't look at it from that point of view. It is just, Yahweh. But like my man, like Brian B said, they steal from each other. Yeah. And that's a lot of people. I think you have to look at it from an aerial perspective, Brian. I think who said that? Wait a minute. Yeah, Brian B. That is not 4 sides, that it have 8 sides. You was here in the beginning, I said that. But yes, it had 8 sides to it. Fasting is a form of sacrifice. Anything can be a sacrifice. Yep, I need to do some fasting. I've been doing good. Been eating more and more vegetables and fruit. No, but when I was investigating Ifa, I did go through one of theirs. I was there for one of those sacrifices when I was investigating Ifa. But I don't sacrifice. I don't believe in sacrificing animals. It holds no power to sacrifice an animal. Is God all knowing? If there is an infinite divine being, it would be all now knowing of our universe. But I would then question where the hell he come. Where did you come from? What created you? So if someone want to be a Freemason, they can't fake it or fake the funk, go through the motions. They have to become one if they are serious. Otherwise, they will be blacklisted. Yep. I mean, to a, like, let's say there was this one lodge. I don't. The brothers in that lodge weren't that knowledgeable. They weren't as knowledgeable as they should be. You could probably fake your way if you met them, right? And there are plenty of brothers out there like that. But somebody who's serious about their Freemasonry, somebody who's serious about learning and the knowledge and that sort of thing, you're not going to be able to fake that. If you came to a lodge as a guest, if you sit there and don't say shit or much of nothing, you can probably fake your way in. But if it's a lodge that's strict about who they let in and you having to go through the process to be let in, you're not going to get in. You're not going to get in. But if they're not strict about their process of letting you in, then yeah, you can fake your way in. But if they find out, yeah, your ass gonna get blacklisted. But I wouldn't, because the moment that they challenge to see if you are a Mason, then if you fail that, then that's your ass. You out. You out the door. The Jesuit has to have a vow to cause war and destruction by whatever means publicly and privately necessary to make priesthood. I didn't know that. You fast every month. Good for you. Walking and boxing keep you in shape. Yeah, I got a heavy bag now. That's gonna be my cardio. I don't have a problem with God, so to speak, because I don't know. I don't know my problem is with religion. Mine is with religion, but it's with the created gods of man. Yahweh didn't know where Adam was hiding in the garden, and didn't know where didn't know Adam ate from the tree. Meaning, it's not omnipotent, or omnipresent. Exactly. That God is not, uh, because it would never. Hey, Adam, where you at? And some Christians will try to explain that. Say, oh well, what he was just asking, to see if Adam was going to tell the truth or come out of hiding. Like, that's bullshit. Hey, come up from them bushes. Come here. I know what you did. Yeah, I think people know I'm spiritually in tune because some random Ephah priest talked to me about bees. I was like, I'm good, my chief. Yeah. Um, Look, I've met plenty of people. They're wearing, this dude had a hat with the hand of Hansma in it on it. And I was like, man, I dig your hat, right? And he was like, oh yeah, yeah. I say, so you practice Jainism? And he was like, what's Jainism? I said, that's the symbol of, he had the Jainism version of this. And I was like, and he was like, nah, man, I just like the way it look. They gonna off you. They ain't gonna off you. They just gonna tell you to leave. And if they got your name, or if they are, doing what they're supposed to do, they will get your information and they will blacklist you. Well, we don't call it blacklisting; it'll be blackballed. Same thing, but you'll be blackballed. So you'll be barred from ever becoming a Mason. And like I said, if somebody who you was working for and they find out that you did that, they would probably fire you. So he lied to Adam, sure did. Because he sure didn't die on the day that he ate. He also thought someone told Adam good and evil, not that he ate from the tree. I'm not sure what you mean by that. But mind you, there was only 3 people created when God asked who told him. That's right, he did. They say, who told you? Who were the 3 people? Adam, Eve, are you saying Lilith? But who are you saying the 3 people? But the second chapter of Genesis flies in the face of the first chapter of Genesis when they said it made man and woman and told them to be fruitful and multiply and have dominion over all the earth. So it kind of like, it's 2 different tellings. Oh, you're saying the snake is the 3rd person that was created? Well, according to Enoch, the books of Enoch, there were the heavenly host of billions of angels had already been created before the earth creation. Is there a penalty of death if certain secrets within Freemasons come out that someone reveals? Because you can read this in the Duncans, yes. Does it happen? No. Because there's the penalty, because you can't go outside. If you're a Freemason, you're not supposed to go outside of the law of the country that you live in. Kind of like how the Bible says that whatever country you were born in, you're supposed to respect those laws and that government. It's similar there. We can't just murder people. But no. There it says it, but no. But there's a symbolic meaning though within that. So, and it's not it's not a literal thing. Coach, did you know that ancient Egyptians fast for 30 days out of the year from sun up to sundown, just like Muslims do now? Ramadan, amazing. The ancient Egyptians did it first. No, I actually didn't know that. I didn't know that. Yeah, I would fail at Ramadan. I fail like a champ. It's not the eating part, it's the drinking part. What do you think about the Eastern spiritual Hinduism and Buddhism? What's Jainism? Jainism is a came out of Hinduism. Just like so, you had Hinduism, which is Indus. It's an Indus lifestyle culture that they call Hinduism. Jainism and Buddhism came out of those. There are if I had to be in a religion again, if I'm being forced to be in a religion, I would probably be a Buddhist before I would be anything else. I like Buddhism doesn't have. There are certain sects of Buddhism that have this. Oh, there's this God, but most sects of Buddhism doesn't have a God that's all puppeting your lives and all involved and all that bullshit. For the most part, Buddhism is if you can get to the Buddhist mindset, get into your Buddha head, which is kind of like getting into your divinity, then you will cease to come back to this planet unless you do so by choice, and you will go on to the next higher conscious level of existing. And then there are just levels and levels. So it's more in line with the Kabbalion and Hermeticism than with this bullshit of these other religions. Hinduism, it got the whole Brahma is the god, and then all these other what Europeans claim to be deities, but the original Indus people didn't claim them to be deities. It's kind of like the Mennoniters. They were just aspects of Brahma, but Brahma is the one god, which is similar to the Ogdo in the Kemetic religion, the true Kemetic religion. So you got all these other smaller deities that they call them now. But if you don't get it right, you just come back and try it again. No, and Buddhism is not always happy-go-lucky. There have been Buddhist priests and Buddhist groups that come down from the mountain and chop your damn head off if you don't become a Buddhist, or force people into pretty much slavery. So it's just like any religion, you're going to have some good and bad. On El and Yahweh, I myself revert to the Sumerian tablets on the Yahweh family compared to the Hebrew text. Yeah, if you really study El and Yahweh and break it down and look at the Sumerian, you can see how Enlil and Enki are pretty much your El and Yahweh. And then, but they switch around a few times because you're talking about a story that's told over 3,000 year period. So the stories are going to get changed around. And then even El some aspects of with the Babylonians, some aspects of Marduk or Baal is mixed in with El as well. But when you study those, realize how it changes over a long period of time and how those things go. Like uh, the Satan and El, so Enki is El in the Genesis story, right? But the Satan is also El in the Genesis story because Satan means administrator. To the Sumerians, Satan meant administrator, and he was the administrator over the earth. So you got El and the Satan as the same being, which is why the serpent is not the Satan, but the serpent is Enki, because in the Sumerian story, it's Enki who gave man the knowledge of the knowledge of tool working, as well as being able to reproduce themselves. Because in their story, man was supposed to be only clones and not being able to reproduce themselves so that the population can be controlled. So they flip flop a lot, and one of the reasons is because when they started mixing in with the Canaanites and they started worshiping Yahweh, and uh, later on in around 700 BCE, you get the merging of Yahweh and El into one being, and definitely by the time you get to the 500s, they are completely merged as one being. My biggest thing with Christianity was my grandmother couldn't explain all the pain in the world. Well, I just said because Eve ate the apple, that's where all the pain came from. You know, many cultures have those kinds of stories. We all know Pandora's box, but pretty much almost all the ancient religions have a story about how everything was so peaceful and great and it was paradise on earth. And then either some man or some woman, and most of the time they try to blame it on a woman, did something and unleashed hell on the planet. But evil, when you look at the Bible, what they call evil must have already existed prior to them eating. If they ate from the tree of good and bad, then good and bad had to already exist before they ate from it. It wasn't just not within their mental dimensional plane. But if there was a war in heaven, then evidently, even on that higher dimensional plane of heaven, there was already evil because they fought and had wars. So pain and suffering, this is one of the things, like people talk about, oh, I'm going to go to heaven, and everything's going to be nice and sweet. No, on every dimensional plane, there is high vibration and low vibration. You know, now on this gross matter plane, compared to a, say, spiritual plane, let's say spiritual plane A, compared to matter plane A, everything on matter plane A is low vibrational in comparison to spiritual plane A. But within the plane, there is still the lower vibration of spiritual plane A compared to the higher vibrational of spiritual plane A. So you're always going to have that rhythm, that pole will always exist in every form of existence. So you will never, basically what I'm saying, there is no such place as a heaven where everything is a high vibration and everything vibrates high. It's just higher than the lowest vibration, is just way higher than where you came from. And initially you probably be like, oh, this is heaven, until you realize that, oh no, fuck that, I can vibrate even higher out of this plane and get to a higher plane of existence. And that's one of the concepts when you actually look at we said Buddhism, is that one of the things that was originally taught is that it's a continuous journey. But this is why I just go with the Kabbalion, because it takes that mysticism shit out of it, and it's just purely on your existence. Abstaining from sex is a part of fasting. Yep, gonna fail that one all the time, Mike. The hell am I abstaining from sex for? I even read, this is a thick ass book called The Tao of Sexology that I read. It's a great book because one of my other big interests is sex, and it's a great book. You know, it talks about holding your sexual energies and utilizing your sexual energies to help you to manifest things and all this other kind of stuff. But when it was start talking about abstaining from it, I was like, sure, I ain't doing that. And I tried it though, and if anything, my brain got duller when during that whole time frame that I was abstaining from it. I got duller. You ever see that? What was it? It was a Seinfeld episode when George was abstaining from sex. His mind got sharp. When what the woman, I forgot her name, Julia Dreyfus plays the woman. When she was abstaining from sex, her brain got dull as hell. So, and then George was, I mean, he was scientific, he was everything. And then he had sex the night before he was supposed to go and do this show, but he couldn't remember shit. You know, and then Julia Louise Dreyfus, whatever her name is, when she got some because they was having a contest to see who could maintain or something like that. I think that's what that episode was about. Yeah. No, my brain gets dull if I'm not relieving myself, as I should say. Coach, the name Israel means struggle with God. Does that mean I struggle that there is God? What? Does that mean I struggle that there is God, or does it mean I struggle with God? Um, I think I believe it means struggle with God. A lot of people like to say it's Isis, Ra, and El, but it's not. In the Hebrew, that's not what that means. It means to struggle with God. That's the whole Jacob wrestling with God story. So you already lost at that fasting. Yep, got a lot of reading to do. Not that again. Not what again? Look, I started a channel, but then I don't pay attention to it. That I was going to talk about. I get to talk about tantra and sex because that is one of my favorite subjects. Does the word Genesis mean birth of Isis? No, it means beginning. No, it means beginning. You know, they the Hermetic language, the Semitic languages, and the Kemetic languages don't mix. All the translations don't come across that way. You know, it's just like how English, the translations that they do from English and Greek don't really work with English too well. In the same way, the Greek and the Semitic language they didn't translate all that well. So you didn't get, so certain translations are going to be messed up. Like the whole thing about Mary being a virgin, the Hebrew word just meant young woman, but the Greek word means virgin. So that's why they think Mary was a virgin, but really it means a young woman. Has nothing to do with her chastity. But the translations just don't work right. They couldn't translate Joshua, so they translated to Ius because the translations just didn't go over well. So Genesis just it means beginning. It has nothing to do with Isis at all. You'll never. You know what, Renee, Angelina. I was telling Angelina last night that whether it's hopefully it's January of 2025 that we're able to buy the RV that we want, and then we're just going to be, traveling on the RV, living on it for 5-6 years, doing the Eat Sip Smoke travel channel that we've just started. But I'll also be doing these videos. And I said, I'm gonna outfit the RV so that the front half of the RV and outside we can go live, and while we're just driving or just enjoying our day. And she was like, "You sure you want people to see that side of you?" Because some of the dumbass conversations that we have, or the crazy conversations, y'all are probably like, Man, I'm not listening to this dude no more. This dude crazy. Which is one of the hard things. I've actually had people who get mad at me or have gotten mad at me because, and like, I'm not following your channel anymore because you're talking about this or you're talking about that. This channel is supposed to be this. And my response to them was, and not to you, Renee. My response is like, motherfucker, this is my channel. I do what I want on my channel. I talk about whatever I want on my channel. I am very multifaceted. Like, I have interest in all sorts of things. You know, I am curious as all get out about all kinds of stuff. I'm the kind of person that will go outside. Ooh, one of the most exciting things that I ever happened in my life. I moved this rock and it was red ants fighting black ants and they were going to town. And I sat there and I watched them fight for like 30 minutes. And then the termites came in and whooped all their asses. And I was like, man, like I sat there and watched all that. That's right. And go join the nudist colony. I will go to a nudist colony. Look, walking around butt naked is so freeing. It is so free. I hate clothes. Right? I honestly do. And I know this body don't look the best it can, but I don't give a damn. To be able to just walk around butt ass naked and be comfortable, it's freeing. So the Kabbalion, the Duncan, then join a lodge. Sure, just investigate the lodge that you're going to join. You want to meet those brothers, get an understanding of what they do, what they focus on first, so that it falls in balance with what you want, what you're looking to get out of it. If it's knowledge, then you want to make sure it's a very heavily knowledge-based lodge. If it's we're all about charity, then and that's what you're about, then do one of those. For me, it was knowledge-based. I don't like being forced to do charities. Most people run away from the conversation that challenge their way of thinking and belief system, or even prove that their belief is totally wrong. Yeah, most people will. You're absolutely right, John. They'll run away from those conversations, especially if they can't supersede your information. That makes sense. Even in the higher spiritual realms, while souls are higher vibration than on the earth, it doesn't mean that there aren't lower vibrational souls that just made it out of earth and are novices. Exactly. That's why, like, from the Buddhist stuff that I was reading, like the Christ mind is at like level 10 or something like that, right? But the Buddha mind was at like level 15, you know. But they're both in the spiritual realm, you know, on the spiritual plane. So the Christ mind will be a lower vibration than the Buddhist mind. Now that could be propaganda for the Buddhists, but either way, it's still showing that process. It could be reversed for all I know. The people that don't need to be out there are the ones on the news. Are you body shaming, Renee? Or are you just saying that the looky-loos would be the ones out there? I ain't gonna lie. Sometimes I have done some body. When I was in Germany and I would go to the mineral spas, the swim bod, or especially the mineral bod. I be down there in the saunas and in the steam rooms, and I'm looking over, and there were grandma and grandpa there, and I'm like, y'all don't please. I don't. I'd be like this. I don't want to see all that. So they keep running away to better for us. Yep. There's a part of the Sumer text that depicts the word Yahweh and depicts the word Yahweh and the family or last name El is the father and the grandfather is Enlil, Inky and their sisters. I can't remember her name. You know what? I need to bring that sheet down. I have the family tree upstairs. Um, I know Anu is the daddy, and you got Enlil and Inky, and I think then Harsag is who you're thinking about. I'm with you. You'll never be the same if you see me out. No, actually, I don't body shame. I mean, you know what I'm saying? If I'm in a nudist colony, and in all honesty, Renee, I recognize that nobody's body is perfect. Well, let me not say that. There are some people. Perfection of a body is really based on the person who's viewing it. So, like, beauty is in the eye of the beholder. Uh, what I think is perfect may be imperfect to somebody else. But I've seen very few perfect bodies for what I see would be perfect. So I don't like overly concern myself with it. I think the thing about grandma and grandpa is that I was 20 something years old. And I'm like, you know, but when some of the nudist call me, I'm like, hey, I'm actually in admiration that the person doesn't care. It's that, when you get older, even though I've had this for a while in my life, and me and Andrew was talking to a couple, and this guy was saying that he's my age. For him, it didn't happen until he was older, but I was younger when I started to develop the mentality of I don't give a fuck. So when I do see somebody out there, big, small, shaped funny, it's like I admire their I don't give a fuck mentality. That I'm here enjoying myself in nature or in this facility the way I want to. And if you don't like it, that's your problem. Right? And I think it's cool as shit. So to me, it's a good, it's what's the term? What am I thinking about? When you like yourself. I forgot what it is when you like yourself, when you have a high self esteem. Yeah, when you have high self esteem, I think it's great. And if you're suffering from low self esteem, I think that's a good way to break that shit. Go on out there and then get comfortable. There, why body shame instead of embracing their personal confidence and walk away freely with the way that they dress? Exactly, exactly. I don't look at it as body shame. Like I said, I was 20 years old, and I'm just looking. And see, the other part was like, damn, they old. They're like looking at my grandmama. You know what I'm saying? You have them. I remember walking on this one nude beach. I thought this dude was butt ass naked. It was a nude beach. It was in Benidorm, Spain. I thought he was butt ass naked, but you just couldn't see his speedo from the front. But to look back on him, like, hey, he was proud. He was like, hey, I don't go. I'm out here on the beach. I'm enjoying myself. It's nice. Which Benidorm, Spain, is a great little cold beach town. Grand Rising, sir. You're here, You late. We sure gonna end in a minute. I think that's a level 5 spiritual mind. I would hope so. Yeah, have that self confidence. Right. I like me. I like hanging out with myself. Yeah, indeed. Shit. This is one woman. I was giving her some coaching advice because she made this one video, and the video was great. And I told her you need to dig down deep on that. It's called Butt Naked with a Helmet. I told her she should call it Butt Naked with a Helmet. I don't know what she actually ever called it, but she would do lives, and she'd be laying on the bed. You can see kind of like the shape of her butt, but you couldn't see nothing. But she rides motorcycles, and she did videos where she talked about life, and it was called Butt Naked with a Helmet. And I was like, that hook will get people on there. But she was so confident in her nudity that she just walked around. She didn't. When she get home, she butt naked. Be confident in your body. I don't give a shit. If y'all saw me butt ass naked, I don't care if you said something like, he probably could use, a salad or two. Whatever. It seems like you're always in a good or a spiritual vibration mood. You don't really get down depressed or angry usually. I don't. I don't. I have a mindset that if I got some issue going on, if I can do something about it right then, I'll do something about it. If I can't do anything about it, then I go enjoy myself until I can do something about it. So there's no point in sitting around being sad and depressed and all that kind of stuff. The last time I was depressed, uh, now don't get me wrong, PTSD is a whole nother thing. But the last time I was like really depressed was when I got divorced, and I realized when it hit me, that I won't be in the house with my kids, even though I was, they was 30 minutes away. I saw them every weekend. I called them all the time. We still was, I was seeing my kids, not being in the house every day. That messed me up for a good 6 months. For a good 6 months. It took me a while to get over that. Actually, no, it took me about 2 years. Let me rephrase that. It took me about 2 years to get over that. Right? Yeah, that part. But other than that, I'm like, I'm gonna deal with it. When PTSD try to creep up on me, then I'll sit and meditate and get over it. I definitely won't let it affect other people around me. Like, yeah, because why should they have to deal with it? If I ever come to Cape Town, I will take you to some nudist beaches. If you don't mind being butt naked, I can do it. Oh hell yeah, dude! If you didn't want to take me, I'll leave you and go find it for myself. If y'all came to my house, sometimes you better not. It might take a minute for us to come to the door because there's some butt naked going around. Yeah. Uh-uh. You play 9 holes of golf. Yeah. That would be. I would go play if you could. I would go play golf butt ass naked. Well, I need shoes on, but I would go play golf butt ass naked. That would be interesting. Butt naked golf. Ah, oh my gosh, y'all! You know what? Y'all get me to just say y'all. Mm. Somebody gonna be like, I don't like him. Uh, no, I don't give a damn. Y'all are not like the fake smiley face people. There are some people who smile a lot, and you can tell it's fake. Uh, the pastor Joel Osteen always be smiling, but you can sort of tell, yeah, that's his way of conning them people. Okay, all right. Let me tell you something. They're losing. It ain't no whenever I'm in Morrow. Shit, I will make the drive, bro. Not that I do shrooms like every day and no shit like that, but there are time frames when it's like, okay, um, I want to do some meditative practices or I want to take a trip. It doesn't even happen every month, but oh yeah, ain't gotta be in Morrow whenever I'm in Morrow. Shit. Hey man, schedule a day, schedule some time. Send me a message. I be like, yeah, y'all, I gotta finish this video up. Gotta run down tomorrow and back. Gotta run down tomorrow for a little while, and some be down tomorrow. Might as well go hang out at Groovy Blues, hang out with Peanut with John for a little bit, smoke some cigars. just, whew, I just take that trip. You know what? I'm about to run too. I don't see the point in naked golf. There is no point. The point. Here's the point. The point is just doing something that's different, that's a different experience. It's just doing it for the sake of doing it. I guess that's a part of me that you probably don't understand. There are a lot of things that I would do just for the sake of doing it. Like if you can climb Stone Mountain butt ass naked, I would climb Stone Mountain butt ass naked just to do it. The first time I went up Stone Mountain at night, I went up at night just to do it. Then I found out that I like going up at night, but you know, butt naked golf would be just to do it, just to do it. No reason. Don't need a reason. Just because it's something you can do. I myself am sort of kind of laid back, even kill. I don't really get too down or get too high. I don't get down. I can get up though. I can't get up like Angelina. Angelina she be all over the place. Oh, she was killing me this morning. Be all over the place, just bopping around. Like, oh, I was sleepy as hell because she had the bedroom like an inferno. She just all in the morning just bumping around. I'm like, oh my gosh, will you calm down? I ain't even had no coffee yet, no breakfast yet. I just woke up. And you too excitable. That's why she can't have coffee. I believe that's her name, something like linking to ISIS or something. I don't know what you're talking about. I know we about to get off this goddamn thing. Yep, Adam and Eve was butt ass naked in the garden. That's cause this deity like looking at poom pooms and ping pings. Nah, I just but yes, they were butt naked in the garden. There is look, I also have this thing. It's about where you live. I don't think that anybody, like every creature, every animal, every life, all life on this planet is born in a natural state. And that natural state is conducive to their environment. They don't burn up and they don't freeze, right? Humans are the only creatures on the planet that live where they can't live in the same way that they were born. Polar bears are born where polar bears are born, and they are born ready for that environment. If you take a polar bear and move him to the Sahara, he's gonna die. Take him to the Congo, he's gonna die. Same way you can't take an elephant and take his ass up to Alaska, he's gonna die. Humans are the only ones that live in places that we are biologically not built to live, which is one reason why I don't ever want to be in the cold, because we're not built to live in the cold. So on the golf course, there's too much swinging going on. It would be interesting. So you, I mean, it's just gonna fly. Your titties gonna be a fly. That would be funny to watch, though. That would be funny to watch. That's part of evolution. It's part of evolution that those animals live where they live, yes. But for us, it's part of industrialization and innovation that allows us to live. Like Georgia gets too cold for us to actually live in it, butt naked in nature. If you think about it, because like on those 30-degree nights and all that, it'll be a whole bunch of people dying if you were just sleeping outside in the woods. I mean, of course, animals know how to find warmer spots, but they got built-in fur and thick skins and all that stuff. But we ain't built to live in Georgia. Too cold. I'm supposed to be in the tropics. Oh, is that what we're so loose weed? We will be near Morrow Saturday. We going all the way down there? Where we going? Or rather, I should where they live? Because I don't think you told me that part. You probably did tell me. I just don't remember. Yeah, I didn't even remember. So we'll be near Morrow on Saturday. Oh, I didn't know we were going down there. Make a whole evening of it. Well, it depends on how long you want to stay. We'll talk about that. Yep. All right, Brian. See you tomorrow. I'm about to get off of here. Loose weed. Hit me up on the back channel, or let me know it. Here's my email. I got to ask you a question about that. And then we might be able to arrange some things. So send me an email, loose weed. What do you say, loser weed? I don't know, weed. But we'll be down that way Saturday. But for the rest of everybody, I appreciate the gifts that were given. Thank you very, very much. I appreciate everybody who shares the channel, who shares the videos, who subscribe to the channel. You guys are great. Go subscribe to Eat, Sip, Smoke, and Travel. And subscribe to Really Did You Know with Angelina, because she's going to do one about the Milky Way and how that name came about. Because I'm going to bother her until she does it. Yay! So I appreciate you guys. Y'all have a great day. Remember, always, you got to free yourself to be yourself because your greatness is non negotiable. Good journey, good vibrations. And we're out.